Hey everyone, Samia Khan here with your FOX10 News Now update. Hope you're having a wonderful Friday. I know I'm having a great Friday because I have Jamie Kennedy to my left. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I am great.
Look at my hair. I can't help it.
What's with your hair? What's with the beard? What's with the glasses? What's with your look right now?
I have a new role. I'm on a TV show on NBC called Heartbreakers. And I just woke up. So that's why I'm wearing these glasses. And I'm playing a doctor, and he has a beard.
Oh, so you're playing a doctor. What kind of doctor?
He's like a wild heart surgeon who is not exactly the most up-to-kept person, but he's really great at what he does.
Mm-hmm. What kind of research did you have to do to get into that role as a doctor?
I
don't know.
Well, he doesn't shower, so
okay,
does it look like I'm in character?
Did you shower this morning?
Not yet.
Yeah.
How do I smell?
It's already getting into it.
I smell like a man, though, right?
You know what? Thankfully, this coffee is strong enough to where it's overpowering the scent of someone not showering.
Cartel coffee, very good. I'd like a free cup. Thank you.
Cartel, it's what a local Phoenix.
It's always nice to name your coffee after a horrific drug trade.
You know, it's a very popular one here in Phoenix, though. People rave about it.
It is. Thank you.
So a lot of our viewers are already getting the questions ready for you. So I'm going to scroll up and acknowledge some of them.
This is the set of the Ghost Whisperer.
Let's see. Questions for Jamie. What did you want to do as a profession growing up? Apple Snapple wants to know.
I never wanted to have any job my whole life. I hated work.
So you knew never wanted a 9-to-5.
I knew I didn't want a regular job, and I hated school, and I hated jobs. And,
but you were like, I need money somehow.
Well, I didn't know anything. Like, I was just, my mom's like, here, go to school. You know, here, go to church. And, like, I never, like, had to think. Here, put a baseball bat in your hand. And then when I was, like, 18, I was just kind of like, what do I do now? And then, like, people said, you're funny. And I worked at Red Lobster, and this guy working with me, he's like, you're really funny. That's how he talked. He's like, you should try stand-up. And that's how I started.
Wow. So if it wasn't for Red Lobster.
Red Lobster, baby.
That's where it all started.
People in the kitchen, they gave
those biscuits.
Cheddar Bay. I was pre-Cheddar Bay bisque.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. There was a time where there was
Red
Lobster before.
Can you believe that?
I did not know
They had no Cheddar Bay biscuits.
So why did people go?
Because the shrimp's off the hook.
Okay. I guess I'm into the biscuits. What can I say?
But let me tell people who don't know what they want to do in this world. You know, you got to go out, think about it, go to the desert, take a couple days.
Well, we're in the desert right now.
Yeah,
so
you're here.
You know, you have to come to Phoenix if you're not already here.
I would say do what you love and the money will follow.
You know, a lot of people always say that, but do you think it's really true?
Yeah. I believe if you're really good at, like you just had a segment on the last show about that place Oink Cafe, and they make all these bacon flights. I mean, that guy probably just loved bacon, and now he's like a bacon connoisseur, and if you make it, people are gonna love it if you're good at it, if you really believe in something. It's about finding your passion in life, but there's no pressure. Take your time.
How long can you take to find your passion? Is it okay if you find it at
don't wait too
55?
long. Don't wait too long because robots are coming and they're gonna take your job. But that got deep. I don't know. It's like a lot of pressure for people, but I literally, if I didn't love stand-up, which at times I do not,
right.
If I didn't love acting, I had nothing else to do.
Right.
I had nothing else going on. Like, I literally, if I wasn't going to make it in then, I wasn't going to make it. I wasn't making it anyway, and I was, like, pretty broke, so it was like, I might as well keep doing it. And just enough people gave me enough encouragement to go, hey, that was funny, that little moment you had there, or, you know, hey, you're not going to get this audition, but that last audition, you were kind of good. I had very low expectations. So somebody just said, like, hey, you know what? You said, like, out of 10 lines, you said 1 funny. I'm like, that's great.
It was a win.
So I was very low expectations.
You mentioned that you like stand-up most of the time. Is the most of the time attributed to the fact that there are audience members that can make it kind of difficult sometimes? I watched your documentary back in, like, 2009, Heckler.
Not that
I remember seeing.
Did you like it?
I did.
2 things that make it difficult is when you don't connect with an audience, because you're just trying to get over ideas and you're just not connecting. So you could, quote unquote, be bombing, but you know these are good ideas, but they're just not working.
Is it because you're in your head too much, or is it because the audience doesn't get it?
I think it's because audiences are dumb.
Depending on the city, yeah.
No, it's because sometimes you don't explain it well enough. You do have to really super explain it sometimes. And then other times it's hard because, like, I did Seattle like 2 weeks ago, and It's a great city, but boy, they like me there a lot. But they liked me so much that they would scream and be drunk, and I couldn't really do my show at times because they were so wildly drunk. And so at some point, I couldn't even do the show. It's more like just me standing up there and people hollering stuff in my face.
What is your stand-up show like? Obviously, you have a show tonight through Sunday at the Tempe Improv, right?
I have a show all weekend, 2 tonight, 2 tomorrow, 1 Sunday, and it's stories from my life. I'm talking about how I'm not married yet. I do some impressions. It's really hard to talk about on Fox News. You have to come to experience it. You know what I'm saying? It's not something you want to talk about at 9 o'clock in the morning when you're making an omelet. You know what I mean?
Well, you mentioned you're talking about being not married yet. Is that something that is that something that bothers you? I know that's something that bothers my mom in regards to me.
That I'm not married?
Not you, but I mean, I know I have that pressure. Do you care about that?
Not really. It's just that when you're like in your 40s, people are like, oh, not married yet.
But I feel like it's different in Hollywood.
It's like either one of two things. It's like, when are you gonna like come out of the closet, or like when are you gonna like become a creep? You know what I mean? It is different in Hollywood. Thank God for George Clooney not doing it till he was like 55.
So you got some time.
We
got
got
time.
10 years. But yeah, I mean, I think an older husband is a better husband. I know it because I'm really have lived life. So I'm a great husband, I think, because there's nothing that I need to do.
Is this your pitch to the world right
now? This is my
if
pitch
anyone's looking for a husband right now.
My Tinder profile, which I'm not on.
Jamie is available.
I am. I would be a good husband because I think I've done a lot, and I'm also very forgiving. So if you were out there in the newscast, and you ended up getting a job working the hot weatherman, and you had a one-night stand with the weatherman,
you'd be okay with
I'd
that?
probably understand.
Wow.
If he had a cold front coming in, this thing got weird. # awkward.
Really awkward. But you can make... Anyways, let's continue.
Yes.
I want to acknowledge...
You got weird with that.
I can get very weird. Jessica asking a question for you, Jamie. Hi, I visited the Ghost Whisperer set on my honeymoon last year, and it was a dream come true. My question for you is, did you experience any paranormal stuff while filming?
I never did. I never did. But I was like scared at times because people always tell me about it. But I was very lucky. I have never. But I never invite that stuff in my life because I do believe in it.
The creepy stuff?
Yeah, like I did Scream, which is hard. I did Ghost
true.
Whisperer, Paranormal, and I just was like, because I do believe that stuff. So.
Scream was terrifying.
Yes, it was.
Did you ever get, when you're shooting a movie like that, do those kind of things haunt you, or while you're on the set you kind of know it's all sort of fake and fictional?
Well, it's fake. I mean, it's not real.
But I mean, I don't know.
No one's really trying to kill you. But you do. I don't know. Ghost Whisperer is very calm.
Okay. Frankie asking, "Hi Jamie, who are your inspirations for comedy?"
My inspirations for comedy. Well, I mean, it goes. Honestly, in reality, in real life, I love people, and I love funny situations, and I love, awkwardness. I think that is. But I mean, in terms of, great comedians, I mean, the old classics, or the Rodney Dangerfields of the world. I loved Robin Williams. I love Richard Pryor. But I mean, there's a lot of comedians I also love today. I can't name them all, but Louis C.K. But I take comedy from real life, not from other comedians. But I do watch other comedians and go, they're amazing. Wow. Is this on TV right now or the web?
This is online right now.
Oh, so we're not on TV, so we can take our time.
You can take your time. We have a lot of time right now.
I love it.
Bina is asking, Jamie, did you ever meet Brittany Murphy while working on King of the Hill?
I met Brittany Murphy. I did a movie with her called Bong Water. I know, that sounds weird. It does. But you can watch it. It's a good movie.
I'm guessing it has to do with
certain
substances.
Water pipe.
Yeah.
Water pipe.
They did a whole movie about that.
Yes, they made a whole movie about it. I've met her a few times. She was great. Too soon. Too soon.
Dina is out in the UK. She says, Jamie, I just happen to be looking for a husband and a green card. So.
Wow, that's the basis of a fantastic extortion plot.
There's that.
Let me see if I can pick one.
Okay.
What we have.
Oh, right here, Eduardo.
Jamie, what is your go-to beer? I like this question. Here's the deal. Americans drink a lot of terrible beer. So let me explain this to you.
Okay.
I know you got to pay your bills with the Anheuser-Busch's and all that stuff. It's garbage. All of that is terrible beer. I'm sorry if they're paying your bills. Belgian beer is the best beer in the world. And so I drink Golden Draak. Look it up. I like Delirium. I like St. Bernardus. I like Chimay. These are all beers that you should look at.
Huh.
We should have them. If you want to bring some to my hotel, I wouldn't be mad about it.
Or well, I would say bring it to the show, but the Tempe Improv, you can't really bring outside drinks.
Well, you can. Just drop them off.
In the green room?
Yes, I would appreciate that very much. Ricon, it's called Ricon. I didn't start drinking beer until my early 40s.
Why is that?
I was never in the beer. It was terrible. It was like drinking like water.
But
this beer gets you really loopy.
Yeah.
You just put something behind it.
I did. Are you hungry?
I mean, I don't know.
Do you want to know what's there? So we had a in studio segment that involved a lot of barbecue and meat. And my dear friend Mark, who is our security guy,
yours.
always have it. No, you don't want it. You don't want
Put
any.
the cover back on.
You're not into meat.
Well, I am. That looks like some blood. What is that?
What
is that?
That's gonna get so awkward.
That's weird.
No.
Is that weird? Look at that
I
stain.
don't know what is going on. This just got really awkward.
The whole thing did.
Do you want some salad?
I don't want any of that.
All right, fine. This just got so weird.
There's blood on the napkin.
All right, let's continue that discussion about beer.
It's great. I have nothing else to say about it.
Okay.
Let me pick a thing.
Let's see.
So wait, how many views is this getting? 12?
I don't know. It depends on the day. Let me see.
Jamie.
Jessica. I like this comedian this time.
I don't... But at least he's a comedian. I don't like Tom Green. What did Tom Green do to you?
I don't know. He was on last week.
Samia is so radiant in yellow. I mean, you are, but...
They're just Tamara likes to comment on what I'm watching.
Obviously, I was kidding, Mr. Kennedy.
Eduardo saying, yeah, I drink quality only, drafted beer. Okay. Well, do I get to interview you? I don't really just want to give all the questions away to the viewers, because if we let the viewers pick, they're going to ask you about your favorite beer, your favorite coffee, what kind of coffee roast you like, what kind of shoes you're wearing.
I mean, none of that really matters.
It doesn't really matter.
Go ahead, ask me.
Okay, so one of the things, I mean, you know, I work in news, we're in a newsroom, and news creates a lot of comedy, so I really want your take, and feel free to share or not, your take on Donald Trump running for president.
Oh boy. This is like the third time someone's asked me this today.
Really? It's just
I already have I can already tell what I think your opinion's going to be.
It's great for ratings? That's my opinion.
Well, I'm not political. Mm-hmm. I think politics is a bunch of BS. I don't think it's real. I don't think people's votes matter. Right? I think that, I know this is going to shock you. I think
I'm not shocked at all.
Most people think that they're like, ooh, I voted. It doesn't matter.
You get a sticker, though.
No, but here's the deal. Once you hit a certain amount of votes, they stop taking the votes. The state is done. Did you know that?
Wait, elaborate on this.
I can't explain it. He could, but the simplest way is if X amount of people vote, and then you vote after it, that state is already considered locked up, so your vote doesn't even count. Right. And that's different between the popular vote and then there's another type of vote, the electoral vote.
Right.
So you could be killing it in the popular vote, but the electoral vote, you lose.
Right,
so
it was like 2000 all over.
Yes. So that's number one. So I think politics is very like this. Number two is, do I like that he says anything he wants? Yes, I love it. Do I think he has a chance? Definitely. Do I know what he stands for? Nah, not really. But do I think that it could happen? There's a chance.
Well, I think it could, because the thing is, when we first heard about him deciding to run for president back in June, we were like, okay, this is just going to be fun. This is going to be entertainment. This is great for like SNL and all the late night shows and it's going to be a riot, right?
Yeah.
But the next thing you know, polls are coming out and he's leading the polls. And we're like, okay, it's an early thing. But now here we are, months later, and he's still leading and he's destroying.
But what the thing is that he is a great businessman.
Yeah.
Would you say that? I mean, his name is on all these buildings. Now, that's just a licensing deal that people don't understand, is he gets X amount of money to put his name on the building, and that's it. You get that, right? He doesn't own all the structures.
Yeah.
So, but he is a very good businessman. I believe he made over $200 million off The Apprentice. I'm pretty sure he did, which is amazing. So he's very smart. So why wouldn't we want a guy like that? He was talking about bringing Carl Icahn in, who is an amazing investor, to run China. So I don't know. To me, America is a business. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why people don't like that, but it is a business, and I wouldn't be mad if it was run by business people. Now, I know he says some offensive things. I'd have to listen. I think he's offended a lot of people in the Latin community. Is that safe to say? Are you Latin?
I'm not.
I'm sorry. Is that bad because you're tan? Oh my God, I'm a piece of crap.
I'm ethnically ambiguous.
You're ambiguous. Well, anyway, I don't know what he said, but I think he was talking more about immigration in general. Like, let's get good people in and bad people out.
Right. I think it's just the way he chose his words.
Well, he's not.
But he's not political. He doesn't care about saying.
It's he doesn't.
He doesn't have someone telling him in his ear every single word he has to say.
The world is by far so transparent now. Do you agree with that?
You mean, yes, because there's cameras everywhere, so there's no point in lying about anything, because whatever you truly believe is going to come out regardless.
100%. I mean, text, everything.
Everything.
So here's a guy that's saying what he's saying. And we don't want to be in a world where people are up there being talking heads. And to be quite honest, I mean, a lot of these politicians are just too rehearsed. I like Rand Paul. I mean, I like Ron Paul. I think he's interesting. I like Donald because, he says what he says. I like the guy from California that never gets a fair shot, Ralph Nader. I heard Bernie Sanders is interesting. I don't know enough about him. There's a new guy, Ben Carson.
Yeah, Ben
coming up, but I don't know anything about him.
Yeah.
But I like people I like Obama because I feel that he's pretty natural. He addresses personal issues through a presidential office, like when racism happens and young black men are being killed unjustly. He talks about it.
Right.
Who's ever done that in the history of office? So,
but has it happened I guess I shouldn't say it hasn't happened as much in history. That's a lie. That's the opposite of what's happened.
Yeah.
But I think it's becoming more of the social issue.
Yeah, but here's the simplest thing for our country. First of all, it's not even about our country. There's too many dumb things being talked about in politics. Like abortion. That's dumb. Take that off the table.
Yeah, it was decided 40 years ago.
It's done. It's your body. You have to. It's your decision. That's it. Whether I believe in it or not, it is your body. I cannot tell you, nor a government should tell you what to do with your body. They don't tell you where to put a piercing. They don't tell you where to do any of that. So forget that. So that's just number one. Take abortion off the table. Number two, minimum wage jobs. Take this off the table. Robots are coming. I hate to tell people this. You think I'm crazy, but our workforce is going to be decimated by autonomy. Well, and if people can't admit that, you're going to have to innovate or you're going to have to die. And that could happen to me too, man. They could start telling jokes. I'm not kidding you. So it's like the dumb shit of that is... Ooh, did I say that?
No, you can say that.
Oh.
It's fine.
Give me another example of
some kind of
I'm just
saying,
topic.
you made a really good point, though, with the robots, because you're talking about, minimum wage jobs, for example.
That's done.
We'll see people protesting in the street. They want $15 an hour so that they can work at McDonald's or wherever. But when you think about it, I can just go to a screen, type in what I want, and there's the computer putting in the order.
Yes.
And then one person can be flipping burgers, and there are 10 jobs gone.
People have to realize, you got to think not 10 years in the future or 5 years in the future. You got to think 2 years in the future. it's a long story, but the law of accelerated returns is so fast. And technology is changing so much that the world is going to be like you've never noticed before. I'm just telling you, we're printing organs now, 3D organs. You know, these minimum wage jobs. The rich have to figure out. We need a system where everybody feels comfortable, and that takes some figuring out. The rich can't just hoard, and the broke can't be broke.
But that's kind of what's happening.
Yeah, so we have to kind of figure out some kind of social program. That's a longer conversation. And there's a horrific amount of homeless people on the street. And when I walk down the street in different cities, I've gone to 12 cities this summer.
So where have you been so far?
Seattle, I've been Reno, I've been to West Palm, I've gone to Cleveland, and every city has homeless people. Yet I see these massive amounts of food being served at the Cheesecake Factory and people throwing it out, and then I see a homeless guy going through a trash can. Again,
so sad.
There has to be programs to figure out how do we make this stuff combine, and that's a lot of work. Also, energy. You're never going to get off of oil while there's money. Do you understand that in our worst year in the economy, like 2008, I think Exxon or something made something like $400 billion in profit.
That's a lot.
So what I'm saying
that could
is,
house a lot of homeless people.
We could do solar, we could do wind, we could do all these great things, but no one's going to do it as long as big money is involved. So we have to figure out how to disrupt these things.
I feel like you could campaign well.
I could
I'm
say...
getting the vibe that you could run for something
Well,
right
I
now.
could say a lot of stuff. It's just common sense. There's no common sense. Here's another thing. Do not be allegiant to a party just because it's a Republican or Democrat.
Right.
Just be allegiant to the person, the ideas, actually. Really is the ideas. That's what I think we should be allegiant to. You know, people say Kanye was ranting, but I liked a lot of stuff he said.
Speaking of Kanye apparently is running for president in 2020.
Not. I mean,
you don't think he is?
I don't think it's. I think
Donald
he just said
Trump
that.
used to say that stuff all the time before too, though.
You never know. I mean, listen, it'd be a different thing. It'd be the hottest first lady we ever had. But
assuming they stay together.
Yeah.
It is Hollywood again.
It is.
You know, divorce happens.
Ideas. That's what I think we should look at. But there's a lot going on. The world's crazy right now. I don't think people realize that.
We're getting back to a couple more.
Got deep.
We'll get a couple more questions. I know we have to wrap soon. Apple Snapple wants to know why you have sunglasses on. Someone else wants to know what's in your cup.
Here's the deal. If I take my sunglasses off, I just look really tired.
You look cooler with
them on?
Yeah.
Thank you. My cup is bourbon. No, it's coffee, fool.
It's too early for that. And then Eduardo's getting into specifics about your beer interest. Jamie.
Wait, liking Obama is liking the tampering of the Second Amendment. What's the Second Amendment?
The right to bear arms, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
so what does that mean? That means I don't like to bear arms?
You don't want to have the right to own a gun.
Here's another thing. Okay, that person who said
Eduardo.
that, Eduardo.
The same person
Dude,
who cares about your.
Do you know where I grew up in Philadelphia? Okay, you know my dad is probably taller than you and your dad. You know my dad was a gentle giant. He says if anybody wants to take your wallet, give it to them. Is your life worth your wallet? Is your life worth your car? It's stupid. Why do you need a gun? I don't need a gun. What am I going to do? Who am I going to shoot? Is there anybody that I need to shoot?
Not right now.
Do you need to shoot anybody?
Not at this moment.
Do you even need to hunt an animal? That's dumb too. What did an animal do to you? That's dumb. Owning a gun is dumb. It's paranoid, and that's hick shit. It's hick shit, man. You don't need a fucking gun. It's dumb. I totally disagree with you. I'm not saying, look at all these murders are happening, dude, because people are clinically crazy, and they're killing people. So guns are way out of control. Totally disagree with Eduardo.
All right, Adam McCrae. So he likes Obama for talking about the black men getting killed by cops, but says nothing about all the cops being killed this week.
Wait. I apologize because I haven't been following it. Where are all the cops being killed?
It is really sad. There was a couple cops who were killed. There was a cop who was killed in Illinois. He was chasing 3 guys. 2 were white, 1 was black. And he was following them. And then next thing you know, officers find him down on the ground and he's dead.
Okay, so let me comment on that. I apologize for not knowing that story. I totally agree with you. A cop's job is top 5 hardest on the planet. And without cops, we're not sitting here in a civilized society. So, and I do agree, those stories need to get out as much as the other stories, because I do agree, it is terrible when I read about young black men being killed, but it is also terrible when cops are being killed.
I think when anyone's being killed,
yes,
it
no,
just
it is
sucks.
true. I do agree with you, and there's each case is a case by case basis.
Right.
You shouldn't just swath it. But yes, that's terrible. I mean,
Well, do you see that right there, that image to the side of us? That's actually a full memorial for that officer that we're talking about.
Wow.
Just random
Okay.
reference.
It's gotten tense.
Jamie, what kind of season will the Upper Darby
Cheesesteaks have?
this
Wow,
season?
he's got my game in Madden. Tell me how we're winning over here. Stop it. The third industrial revolution is coming. Eduardo, I agree with Eduardo there. 9mm on hand if they...
They hit my car
Wait,
wallet.
that's crazy. 9mm on my hand if my car or wallet. It's stupid. You don't even have any money in your wallet, Eduardo. Let's be honest. What's in there? $200? Stop it, dude. I could have $20,000 on me, and if it was I would give it away. I'm always going to be able to make more money, and that's even when I work at Red Lobster. My life is more important, and my car? Screw a car.
So
Next question.
I'm very entertained by everything that you're saying right now.
I'm always with my gun.
And people can...
Because people say you can walk in here and like have a gun in Arizona.
in Arizona, you can.
I know, this state gets a lot of hate, but I
Right.
love it. But it's not like, I think you gotta understand each other. Like, I think you guys, I don't even know enough about the politics here, but Arizona's been cool to me.
Yeah, it's
But
a good
also
state.
Portland's cool to me, and it's probably very different. But, I mean, there might be things I don't agree with, but I think that's the biggest thing, is we have to understand people and say, hey,
Everyone has a
you
different...
believe this for why, and you tell me, and then I'm going to say, okay, well, I disagree with you, but I'm going to agree to disagree, as opposed to just going, you're a piece of duty. You know what I'm saying by
That's
that?
right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. So where can people see you live tonight?
Identity
Tempe
theft,
Improv, right?
bud. Okay, Eduardo goes identity theft, bud. Okay, I'm sorry, Eduardo. Get mad at me. That's another dumb thing. We're all having our identity stolen, fool. What do you think Snowden uncovered?
Oh
Every
my
text
gosh.
you have is with Mac, or every text is with Droid. Everything we have is totally stored. So people can steal your stuff in 3 minutes.
That's
okay?
very true. So I think we have wrapped up on all
No,
the questions.
I
You
just
want
wanna
more?
keep
You
getting
wanna keep
deep.
going?
Let me do one
You know
more.
what? We could maybe I'll just come to your show and we'll do a Periscope and we can continue to have very deep conversations.
Wait, I'm always with my gun. God, Apple Sanchez.
I've never had this discussion with a comedian on here before. This got really serious.
I know,
really
but I'm not a
political.
comedian. I'm a philosopher. I'm a street prophet. Don't label me as just
All right, well,
goofball.
so we're
I'll be at
sitting
the
here-
Tempe Improv all weekend doing jokes. I'd rather just talk about this stuff.
This is great. This is really entertaining. I'm very entertained. I would love to have you all day, but I know I have other news stories scheduled that I have to get to. So, Jamie, you are at the Tempe Improv tonight, 2 shows.
Yes.
Tomorrow, 2 shows.
Yes.
1 show Sunday.
I would like to talk more about stuff like this, but unfortunately, I'm just going to be doing jokes.
Oh, no. Well, maybe you can incorporate this into your stand-up since you're in Arizona. Bring up the gun issue. Let's see how it goes.
I want to help somebody.
Just hopefully no one in the audience has a gun and gets really angry. 'Cause that would
Well,
be
if
really
you
bad.
shoot me, that's just dumb. I'm not worth you going to jail for.
They all want you to stay. I know.
I want to
guys.
stay too.
I know.
It's really, I can open and carry AK-47 if I wish, but a 9, oh my God.
This is getting serious.
Well, it's just dumb. I mean, Eduardo, you don't need a gun. I'm really, this is too much, guys, with the gun. We need to do this more.
More hugs. Less drugs.
Yes. You like that?
I do.
No, actually, people need to do drugs so they can chill
So they
out.
can chill out. Right. Well, thanks for hanging out. I feel like I want to hear more of your points of view at the Tempe Improv. So I'm going to
I
figure
would
out
love
how to
it.
make
Have
one
me
of the
schedule
shows.
me, and I'll come and do another interview with you. Let's do @Jamie Kennedy's my Twitter, the Jamie Kennedy on Instagram, Facebook's Jamie Kennedy. If you want to continue this discussion, we'll do it.
Sounds good.
Be nice to this very ambiguous tan girl.
All right, guys, and I'm going to walk.
Wait, are you racially ambiguous?
I'm racially ambiguous.
Sexually
No, I
ambiguous?
am a woman. I'm not going to show you
Sexually,
guys, but I am.
Sexually preference ambiguous? Please say yes. Just please say
right.
yes.
I'm going to walk Jamie out. In the meantime, I'm going to take you guys live to Illinois where it looks like a press conference is set up. And I will be with you guys in a minute.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, I'd like to start out by saying the outpouring of support from the Fox Lake community and the areas surrounding us has been unbelievably tremendous. Not only have we received a number of tips from Fox Lake residents, area residents, that are all being very vigorously followed up on by the Major Crime Task Force, but we're receiving an outpouring of support from corporations and businesses, both in the immediate area as well as the region. What I'd like to start out by saying, I'm joined here by Vice President of Motorola Solutions. Motorola Solutions, upon learning of the tragic death of Lieutenant Gliniewicz in this senseless murder, immediately came to the Lake County Sheriff's Office and pledged $50,000 to any tip that leads to the apprehension and conviction of the offenders in this case. In addition to that, we've received a number of pledges and offers from corporations and businesses offering the same thing. So many that we're keeping track of all of these, and in fact, any corporations or businesses that are wanting to contact us regarding this can contact Lake County Under Sheriff Raymond Rose, and he'll be coordinating all of the money regarding the reward from the tip leading to the apprehension and conviction. Due to that, and due to the number of tips that we've had incoming, the FBI, who's been assisting us since the beginning, has graciously offered us a fully staffed, fully functional tip line. It's going to be staffed by FBI agents as well as supervisors from the Lake County Major Crime Task Force. We've had so many reports coming in, very good tips and leads, that this is going to be extremely helpful and help us process these leads and send investigators out in a timely manner. The phone number for tips regarding to the murder of Lieutenant Gliniewicz is 1-800-CALL-FBI. That's going to be operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's going to be staffed during that entire time. In addition to that, they've created a website specifically for this investigation. It's www.fbi.gov/Fox Lake. At that website, individuals, if they have leads or tips or suggestions for us that will aid in this investigation, they can submit them. And not only that, they can submit images and videos if they choose to do so. This is all going to be extremely helpful to us. We are grateful for Motorola's solution support and the pledge that they've offered. We're grateful to this community, and we're working very hard. I'm going to turn the mic over to Ali Kapata, Vice President of Motorola Solutions, just to say a few words, and then Chief Falenko.
Thank you. The fatal shootings of Lieutenant Gliniewicz was a horrible act against a public servant who put his life on the line every day for 30 years to protect the people of Fox Lake. While the loss of every first responder is a tragedy, this occurred in an area that many of our Motorola Solutions headquarter area employees and their families call home. My local team worked with Lieutenant Gliniewicz and respected his tireless leadership and commitment to enhancing public safety. Today, in support of the Fox Lake Police Department's efforts to solve this horrible crime, Motorola Solutions is pledging $50,000 for a $50,000 reward for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of those responsible. On behalf of Motorola Solutions, the thoughts and prayers of our employees are with Lieutenant Gliniewicz' family, as well as his colleagues in the Fox Lake Police Department. We're with them during this difficult time as they work to bring the people responsible for this tragedy to justice. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of questions, but let me review a couple of things. There were some questions asked about a weapon recovered yesterday. I can confirm today that it was the officer's weapon that was recovered at the scene. We received confirmation yesterday when we're following up on some forensics from that weapon as we speak. The other thing I want to make clear to you is that we are still reviewing a substantial amount of video. We've now coordinated with the FBI, who have the ability to chronologically put together these video segments that we've collected from a number of areas within the community. They're doing that again today as we speak. Once that's ready, we'll be set to review those. We've been contacted by a number of sources overnight who have also provided some video that we didn't even realize was out in the area One of those specifically being the Lake County Department of Transportation. Some of you who are familiar with the area know that they have intersection cameras. One of the things that we have historically known about those cameras is that that's usually recycled within a matter of several hours. They were astute enough to hear about this officer's slaying, and they've held video from some of the intersections that are key to that exact location. Now I'll be open for some questions.
Commander, would you make clear about the weapon? Tell us how many times it had been fired, and can you also tell us where in proximity to the lieutenant's body was the weapon found?
All I can tell you is it was found near the lieutenant's remains. I can't reveal how many times it was fired.
Was it the murder weapon?
Can't reveal that either.
Do you still believe the suspects are armed, or do you have reason to believe that that was the weapon that was used, they fled the scene and left it?
What I'll tell you is that I believe that the subjects are dangerous, and I'll reiterate this. They murdered a police officer, so they're capable of doing anything.
You were optimistic about that video yesterday from the residents who were reviewing it with Homeland Security. What have you found out?
Correct. That still has not returned. I know that I've been reading some comments within the media about that particular video. There is some difficulty there because it's not a chip, it's not a DVD, it's an actual hard drive. So I'm still waiting for some results from that. Once we get those, we'll coordinate with the FBI and turn that video over to them as well.
But I only 2 white men and 1 black man, is that correct?
That is correct.
How many other videos have you received so far from all these others?
I don't have an exact number, but I believe I'll just say there's several.
But as you talk about assembling the chronology of the videotape, do you have images of people you believe are the suspects?
We have images of people that we believe are subjects that we'd be interested in talking to.
Is that from the video that you spoke about yesterday?
No, this is some other video that we've acquired within the last 24 hours.
Is that from a business or the DOT video?
The DOT video we haven't acquired yet. That's probably just going to show us vehicles in the area. We're hoping it might show us some foot traffic. The video you're referring to and asking about has got images of individuals in it.
Have any information about a potential vehicle?
No, not at this time.
Was the lieutenant's weapon fired around to kill them?
I'm not able to answer that question.
Is that video from a residence or a business?
There are a mix of videos from residences and businesses.
Commander, the lieutenant indicated in his radio transmission that he was pursuing the suspects on foot. But unless you can correct me, it doesn't rule out the possibility that the suspects had an automobile there that they might have gotten into and left the scene. Can you clarify, is there a possibility they drove away and they are miles from here now?
It's a possibility. You remember, if you've looked at the area, that roadway is located remotely. However, there's 2 main roadways surrounding that. So there could have been a vehicle, there's this possibility, parked in either one of those roadways or in the industrial section.
Commander, have you got any tips from either businesses about employees who've not been to work since schools or anything else that gives you some indication of who you might be looking?
We've gotten, some of the things that we do is when we canvass, we do pull records. Specifically the high school, we've gone there. We've asked for absentee records. If we go to a business and we're canvassing, we're asking if employees haven't shown up. That's part of the canvassing process. The caliber of the weapon recovered, it's a .40 caliber. I'm not certain about the make of the weapon.
Can you describe for us today what is the search effort and canvassing looking like? Is this a lot of online stuff or phone calls? Or what are detectives doing today to find these people?
The answer to your question about whether it's phone calls, online, walk-ins, detectives out knocking on doors, yes. All of those. No, we have not seen it. That's why we've got Homeland Security pulling that. But I want to emphasize also, now we've acquired several more videos that we believe are even more relevant than that one.
Are you able to see those? What do they show?
Have I seen those? I have not had I have not reviewed those yet. I understand the FBI, again, tremendous assistance is putting together those videos for us. They're vetting some things. We'll have probably an opportunity to review those within the next several hours.
Commander, what is it about those videos that makes you believe that they're going to be more useful?
Timelines and consistency.
They'll have a timestamp?
Well, there's timelines and consistency. We can tell chronologically. Again, the FBI has the technology to put these videos in sequential order.
Can you tell us what from these timelines, when did they see the suspects you believe may be the killer? How soon after the murder happened did they first show up on some?
Well, we've got videos that we examine before and after. So before the actual, what we believe, time of the murder or the approximate time, and thereafter.
Do they show individuals going into the area when murder took place?
I'm not going to reveal that at this point.
So of all these videos, what is the one piece of video that you're most optimistic about?
I think we're optimistic about all of these videos right now because they all come together chronologically. If they're not separate, they're not independent. There are different cameras that are putting a storyline together.
Do you see one particular vehicle or people throughout all of those videos?
Let's say that there's a commonality there.
For clarification, does the video show 2 white men and 1 black man?
There's a commonality there, and there's an interest in those videos.
The other thing you were waiting for was the crime lab results. Have you gotten anything back from the crime lab?
We've gotten some preliminary results from the crime lab. That's why I'm confirming that it was the officer's weapon that was recovered at the scene. I'm not at liberty to reveal any of the forensic information at all.
When will we know that? When will you be able to release that?
When we make an arrest.
Commander, can you make clear for the citizens maybe here, do you believe the killers are still local or not, and can you shed some light on why?
Well, again, I'm going to explain this, that we historically have seen that, especially in locations that are uncommon locations and are probably only known to people that are local. And when I mean local, it doesn't necessarily mean the Fox Lake area. It could mean some of the adjoining communities. Those are not common. That area is not common. It's not a public area. So generally what we find is that, and again, I'll use this term, that individuals are more comfortable hiding in place. I know that the general public senses this belief at times that people automatically go on the run or try to escape. Yes, that's still a possibility. We don't know. But historically what we found is they still localize. And that's what we're hoping for, that they're still within this area, within our reach.
Typically, this week, are you going to have a lot of people coming in town for the holiday weekend?
Yes.
That may be unfamiliar to residents. What would you say to residents? Because you've been asking them to report anyone they don't recognize, any suspicious activity. What would you say to residents? And then what would you say about people thinking about coming up here for the holiday?
I'm going to affirm what Detective Cavelli's been stating for the last couple days, that the local police department, the Lake County Sheriff's Office, the state police have offered assistance here, saturation patrols. We feel confident that the safety of the community is not in jeopardy. As far as calling in suspicious persons, we're going to rely on the public. You're the public. Instinctively, you would know what's suspicious and what's not. Simply not recognizing somebody from the area doesn't necessarily make them suspicious. Suspicious could be behavior. Suspicious could be some kind of an instinct on the person's part reporting it.
So in that case, a lot of these homes are empty because they're summer homes. These people might be coming back into their house and they haven't been in their house for days or weeks. Do you expect that maybe you could find somebody this weekend because somebody just happened to go into their house and notices something strange?
I hope you realize that we do make contingency plans and we plan ahead. And yes, we know this is a holiday weekend, and yes, we know that this is a partial resort community. So we have put in place plans in those situations where people suspect that somebody may have been in their home squatting, and we've taken it to the extent of addressing even the issue of some of the boats that are docked, that they may have been used as some kind of a hiding spot or somebody just accessing that.
Commander, can you give us a little bit more description on the type of forensic examinations that will happen to the weapons?
Well, typically, yeah, of course, fingerprint and DNA evidence. And DNA evidence could be everything from blood transfer to any kind of biological transfer.
Is there any other evidence you can tell us about that was recovered at the scene?
No, I can't. You know, again, I've got to be careful here because this is still an ongoing criminal investigation, and this information is very sensitive. And I'll explain to you as soon as we make an arrest here, and I'm optimistic. We're not going to stop until we make an arrest. We'll give you the forensics then.
Any evidence that the lieutenant fired the gun? Anything about conclusion?
You're asking me about forensic evidence about the lieutenant firing the gun. I'm not at liberty to say.
Can you tell us anything, Commander, about conclusion reached in the car?
Okay, the question is, do I have a stronger sense whether they got away on foot or on car? Based on where the area is, the initial escape from that area is going to be on foot. Whether there was a car located in the area, I can't answer that question. We haven't confirmed any of that yet.
Commander, last night you talked about tips in Michigan coming from Michigan. Initially, you had said there were 2 Caucasian men and 1 African American man. Those are really vague and not typically very helpful descriptions of anybody. With what you've seen, can you give a better description of who you're looking for? Maybe what they were wearing, maybe height, weight, anything else?
Okay, I haven't had a chance to review the videos. Like I said, they're being put together. We're not prepared to give out any specific descriptions yet. And again, the description initially comes from the lieutenant when he pulls up, and that's the only description he provides to his dispatchers, and that's what we're working off of.
What about dash cam?
Again, that's evidentiary, and I'm not going to reveal that.
How hopeful are you, Commander, that when you do get the DNA evidence back and all the other forensic evidence, how hopeful are you that it will actually point you to at least one of the people involved in this crime? And how hopeful are you that there might be something in the database that you can match up?
You know, I'm looking around here, and I see a lot of experienced reporters that have been at these types of news conferences, and you all understand that in order to get a DNA match, there has to be a replicant match within the system. I don't know. I can't answer that. Until we get a DNA sample and we enter it into the CODIS system, if there's a match, there's a match. If not, we'll continue. One thing I can tell you is that individuals that we have been interviewing, we have been doing what's called buccal swabs, gathering DNA from them.
Who is that? Who are you interviewing that you're taking DNA from?
Anybody and everybody we've interviewed.
Commander, do you have suspects that you've interviewed?
It's not a suspect, it's just somebody we've interviewed. It's part of our process.
So have you found DNA or anything, any forensics at the scene that are not Lieutenant Gliniewicz?
Again, you're asking me about questions that I can't reveal right now.
Can you clarify one thing for us regarding what you said about the individuals, rightfully so, you say they should be considered very dangerous. But you also said we feel confident the safety of the community is not in jeopardy. To the layman, that would sound like then they're not.
I understand that. We just feel that with the amount of a police presence here, and our investigators out in the field, again supported by saturation patrols from the Sheriff's Office and the State Police, I think the community should feel safe in that way.
Yesterday you talked about the tip that came in from the FBI from a source in Michigan. Can you give us any better information about that, whether there was a tip that they were seen in Michigan or somebody in Michigan had information about who?
Yeah, unfortunately, because of the vagueness of the description of the offenders, any 3 individuals matching that description, even out of state, because obviously because of these sources, this has gone national. We're getting calls. For example, the Michigan call was as simple as they received a suspicious individual call at a local gas station. By the time they arrived there, the 3 individuals that were in a vehicle had left the area. They determined that that vehicle had been stolen from the Chicagoland area. So they put 2 and 2 together, and they surmised that that might be relevant information for us.
Has that vehicle been identified and anything further come of that?
We're still working that lead. Fortunately, we've got the assistance of our federal partners who can immediately send agents out there and follow up on that.
When will you have some answers from Homeland Security?
Pardon me?
When will you have some answers from Homeland Security about this video?
As soon as I have the answers, you'll have the answers.
Like last night, there was video made before nightfall yesterday.
Again, I'm not a video or technology expert. We've got a call into their lab right now to see how much progress they've made. But I just want to emphasize that is not the, I think somebody referred to it as the golden nugget of this case. Now we've got several videos. Now whether that video fits into the chronological order of the ones that we have currently, I don't know. Until we see it or until they review it and tell us. And we'll hand that over to the FBI and let them either fit that in or discount it.
You talked so much about these three individuals, but what does your gut tell you at this point as to whether they're still traveling together or they've separated? Does that make a difference in what people are looking for?
Don't know. Again, don't know. They could have separated. I don't know. I can't answer that.
Can you say anything about the coroner's report?
No, again, that's part of the forensics.
There were early reports, we don't know the source, that he was shot twice. Can you say anything about
Can't verify that either. Part of the criminal investigation aspect of the case, and it's got to remain with us at this point.
Where he was shot, where
No.
Chief, yesterday you talked about fatigue among the officers that are here. Have you reached out further to other communities to see if they could help you?
I can tell you this. I'm the oldest member of this task force. I'm almost 60. What's energizing me, as well as these guys that are half my age, who could be my kids, is the fact that we have a murdered colleague. 3 hours of sleep is enough for me. So no, fatigue's not playing a factor. Are we tired near the end of the night? Yes. Am I watching them, keeping an eye on them? Yes. Do we send people home to get a little bit of rest? Absolutely. But we have enough resources here where we can replace immediately. So we don't need any more assistance right now. We have had offers from just about every law enforcement agency in the state, including task forces from McHenry County, DuPage County, South Suburban Major Crime Task Force. I could bring in hundreds of investigators, but then you start running into control issues. So we have to keep this investigation focused and efficient. So to answer your question, no, we have a mission here, we're focused, and we're going to keep going until we solve this case.
Can you give us an idea of what a video timeline looks like? Is it like a big screen full of little screens and you can follow things along, or is it the screen sequenced geographically?
Well, they're going to sequence them based on what time. My hope is they're going to sequence those videos by time they've been. When you collect the video, you're obviously collecting it from an individual. So, collecting a video, you're collecting it from an individual or a business. So what you're going to do is, if it's not time-stamped, you're going to have a general idea when these individuals were present. So that's how you're going to set up your chronological sequence of events.
Commander, just to be clear,
Yes.
the several videos that you collected that you're going to put in sequence, who has those right now?
The FBI.
And Homeland Security, or
Homeland Security's got one portion of it.
has the video from yesterday?
That's the video that we were referring to yesterday. As soon as they're through with that, they're going to immediately turn it over to the FBI so they could put it into their format.
Now, why did yesterday's video go to Homeland Security and the videos?
Homeland Security was on the scene. They had technology, and we wanted to expedite it. So at that time, I made the decision to get it to their lab. Unfortunately, it sounds like they're having a little bit of difficulty, but we're confident in their abilities. We've used them on a number of our homicide investigations, and they've been extremely successful.
Commander, can you clarify exactly, since we all heard the radio transmissions, if the officer's weapon was found near his body, why would the all-call messages saying that the officer's weapon was killed?
I don't believe, I reviewed a portion of the tape, and I didn't hear that.
They said the weapon and his pepper spray were taken.
If they said that, the weapon was not taken, they may not have seen it immediately. Now you've got to listen. You've got to understand. You're finding a colleague dead, so your emotions, your adrenaline is running high. They may not have seen everything there. This is a very overgrown area. In fact, our evidence technicians have been out there several times with machetes, with high-powered magnets. We're back to the scene again today, re-examining it. I think we've been out there half a dozen times to see if we could find anything else. We're actually bringing in a specific ATF canine today too to re-examine the scene. So we're still looking, going back, looking again, canvassing, recanvassing, following up on leads, not closing them out unless they're absolutely confirmed that it's a dead end. So we're revisiting a number of things. We're well into over 100 and some odd leads right now that we've examined.
I know you're being careful about releasing details about the coroner's report, but initially it hasn't been ruled a homicide?
The coroner is the only legal authority in this county to rule it a homicide, and he has a process of doing that. I believe what they do is they examine all the pathology and they have a review panel in place, but you'll have to confirm that with the coroner.
Do you have any details of this video that show the time when it first appeared, whatever video it is, and the last time it was received?
Again, that's something I don't want to reveal at this point.
Commander, I want to make sure.
One more question.
I want to make sure I clarify. Forgive me for whipping a dead horse.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you say definitively was the officer's weapon the murder?
I'm not going to make a comment on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris, did you say Marty? Come.
All right, guys, that is a wrap on that press conference from Fox Lake, Illinois. We're going to now go to some breaking news. Reports of a double shooting near Highland and 17th Street. These are live images coming in right now from Sky Fox. 2 victims of gunshots at the parking garage located at 1702 East Highland Avenue. They were both pronounced dead on the scene by paramedics. Phoenix police are on the scene and investigating. This report comes to us from Phoenix Fire. Again, this is breaking news. Don't have additional information right now. These are live aerials courtesy of Sky Fox. All right, guys, we just watched as live images came in from Skyfox. You were watching as the cop put up police tape there. And now you are looking at aerials of the building where the parking structure is located. Again, this is 17th Street and Highland. Highland just north of Camelback. Again, we don't have a lot of information. We just know that there were 2 people who suffered gunshot wounds and were pronounced dead on the scene by paramedics. We know police are on the scene investigating. Don't have any additional information right now, but those are the facts we have, and we will give you updates as they become available. All right, guys, it looks like the helicopter has left the scene based on the fact that we now see a red screen. As I mentioned to you guys just a minute ago, we really don't have a lot of information regarding this shooting. We know that there were 2 people found with gunshot wounds. Unfortunately, they did not survive. They were pronounced dead on the scene inside a parking garage at 17th Street and Highland. This is in Phoenix. Highland is just a street north of Camelback, so just north of 17th Street and Camelback. If you guys want some more of an idea of where this actually occurred. Very unfortunate story. Again, we don't really have details, but once we get those details, we'll give that to you here on News Now. We are going to move on now, though. Let's start getting a little political. I know we got into the topic of politics when Jamie Kennedy was up here about an hour ago, but we're going to resume our political chat. Ron Hoon is going to join me a little bit later on. We'll be talking about the possibility of Joe Biden running. Yesterday was the first time Joe Biden ever publicly acknowledged his thoughts on running in 2016, so that'll be an interesting discussion with Ron a little bit later on. In the meantime, someone else that is running in 2016, looking to get that Democratic nomination is Martin O'Malley. He spoke this morning, and we are going to watch his speech from this morning.
Donna, thank you very much, and thank you all for taking the time. And Laurel, thank you as well for your leadership here. Salem, nothing but strong women, huh? And they drag you guys along as well. I'm joined here today by my son, William O'Malley. William, raise your hand. William, 17. William is one of our 4. My wife, Katie, and I have 4 great kids. And my daughters are 24 and 23, and my son, William, 17. And then I have a little guy named Jack. And Jack said, Dad, I can't wait till it gets to that time in the campaign where, you're all on stage and you're shouting past one another. I said, you mean a debate? He goes, yeah, a debate. I think you're going to do really well shouting past one another. So we'll see. Soon we'll have debates. And in the meantime, I get to see your beautiful state. Thank you for the Chamber of Commerce weather, by the way, that you rolled out here. I'm also joined by Peter Burling, who served in your legislature, and he has encouraged me to ask whenever I am in a New Hampshire audience, how many of you have ever served in the New Hampshire legislature or run for legislature? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you for jumping into the mosh pit of democracy, where it all happens. You all have a great state, and I've enjoyed the time I've spent here. And this is not the first time I've gotten to know your state. We were remembering having met at Democratic conventions past, and now we have the Democratic convention coming up again, Saturday. And am I going to be at that? Is that this Saturday?
Actually, it's a week from Saturday. It's around the 19th.
19th. There you go. Thank you for the fact check there. By the way, we're also joined by the tracker for Hillary Clinton's campaign. Joe, thank you for being here today as well. Just because we're tracking doesn't mean we have to be tacky. We're all in this together, right? So let me share a couple thoughts with you, and then we'll do some Q&A. And if you have answers, I am on a search for answers. So please, no one candidate has all of the answers. No one party has all of the answers. And I frankly believe that our country would do a lot better if both of the wings of this eagle were actually functioning and working. But I do firmly believe that out of our party will come the new leadership that our country is looking for. And that's a phrase I've heard all across our our nation over the course of the last year and a half of listening. It is two phrases: new leadership and getting things done. So let me share some thoughts with you about us. And by that I mean you, period, S, period. About us as Americans, about our country, and where we are headed. Good news came out today. Good news was the latest jobs numbers. And we're the only species on the planet without full employment. So we understand that there is no progress without jobs. So this is the very good news, that now for the 66th month in a row, our nation has created 66 months in a row of positive job growth, driving unemployment to its lowest levels in 7 years. Big round of applause. And that's thanks to a lot of hard work, dedication, family-owned businesses, small businesses, large businesses, people throughout our country. And it's also due to one other important fact, and that's called leadership, and new leadership. 8 years ago, when our country was this close to being plunged into a Great Depression, we elected a new leader in Barack Obama to make the tough decisions, not always the popular decisions, but the tough decisions to rescue our economy from a total collapse and a second Great Depression and put us on a better path. And clearly our country is doing better. But the hard truth of our times, and I believe the hard truth that we have to be able to acknowledge among and with one another, if we're going to be able to give our children lives with more opportunity rather than less, is that we still have a lot of work to do. Because 70% of us are still earning the same or less today than we were 12 years ago. And that's not the way our economy is supposed to work. That's not the way our country is supposed to work. And that's not the American dream when it's actually alive and well and real. There are many candidates who will stand before you and make progressive promises. But I am the only candidate running for president in our party who's actually achieved progressive results, made things happen, brought people together. Not by putting a finger to the wind and following the polls, that's not leadership. Forging a new consensus to do the things that actually make our economy work for more of us, that include more of us more fully in the economic, social, and political life of our country, our community, in my case, our city and our state. What were some of those things? Dawn outlined a couple in making our city a safer and healthier place. But as governor, we were the first state to pass a living wage. We raised the minimum wage. We raised our goals for minority and women business participation to the highest levels of any state in America, and we exceeded them even in a recession. We did more rather than less to improve our public schools, making them the #1 public schools in America 5 years in a row. We went 4 years in a row without an increase to college tuition at our state universities, because we understand that the more our people learn, the more they will earn, the better our whole economy will do. And rather than investing less in our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our water, our wastewater, our broadband, a new type of infrastructure to connect towns all across our state, we did more rather than less. And as a result, we not only created jobs at a faster rate than our neighbors north and south of us in Pennsylvania and Virginia, but we also defended a AAA bond rating all through the recession, the highest median income of any state in America. The Center for American Progress named us #1 state for women and also women-owned businesses. And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which hardly ever says nice things about Democratic governors anywhere. Maybe it's different up here. No? The U.S. Chamber of Commerce named us the #1 state in America for innovation and entrepreneurship for 3 years in a row. And along the way, not only did we pass comprehensive gun safety legislation, another expression of our belief that we're all in this together, no such thing as a spare American in our state or in our country. We did a few other things to include people more fully in the life of our community. Among them, we made it easier for people to vote instead of harder. What a radical idea. We actually we passed the DREAM Act, passed marriage equality, and when our Republican brothers and sisters petitioned it those things to the ballot to try to kill them at referendum, we took our case to the people that we're all in this together, that there's dignity in every family and dignity in every human being's potential And we won both of those referenda with overwhelming numbers at the polls. So what does that mean for our country in the here and now? Leadership's important, and we face big challenges. And in addition, there's a covenant, if you will, between us and among us that we share as Americans. And that covenant says that you start where you start, whatever your parents' income, whatever their zip code. But through your own hard work and your own talent and your own love of family, you should be able to get ahead. That's the American dream when it's actually alive and well. We need to restore the truth of that dream. And I believe that it begins by acknowledging that powerful American truth that our parents and grandparents, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans alike acknowledge. And that is that our economy is not money. Our economy is people. It is all of our people. And so, yes, we must make sure that work actually pays, that we always keep the minimum wage above the poverty line, that we pay overtime pay for overtime work, that we make it easier and not harder for people to join unions and bargain collectively for better wages, that we advance the cause of paid family leave so that women can participate more fully in the economic life of our country, that we do what we must in order to make sure that Social Security is not cut, not disbanded, not reduced, but actually strengthened and expanded, so that when our seniors retire, they retire in dignity and not in poverty. All of this goes to the sort of market demand that has been the genius of our country. When workers earn more money, they spend more money, and businesses have more and better customers. That's the sort of growth of economy that lifts all boats. That's the sort of common sense economics that we practice, along with a love of country that motivated us to make the investments every generation in our infrastructure, in affordable college, in developing the new solutions to human challenges that create the new industries and the new jobs for ourselves and our kids. I am the first candidate in the Democratic Party to advance, and let us hope not the last, to advance a plan for a 100% clean electric energy grid by 2050. And in doing that, we can create 5 million new jobs. We can transform our traditional electric grid into that sort of that distributed energy generation, green by design, that actually creates new industries. Your neighbors out in Iowa, 30% of their energy now comes from wind. And the great thing about those big blades and those big parts is they're too damn big to ship in from China. So they have to be manufactured domestically here in our country. I've also advanced proposals. You want to get wages to go in the right direction? How about we get 11 million of our neighbors out of the shadow economy, oftentimes where they work off the books, and instead pass comprehensive immigration reform so that our new American neighbors can contribute to our society, contribute to our country, and live in the full light of an open and accepting America. So I believe that the best campaigns are the campaigns that lead with ideas, the ideas that serve our national good, the common good we share as Americans. And that's the campaign I'm running. So whether it's reining in excesses on Wall Street, reinstituting Glass-Steagall, whether it's saying no to the Keystone Pipeline, whether it's refraining from bad trade deals like the Trans-Pacific Partnerships that ship American jobs and corporate profits abroad, there's work we have to do as Americans in order to build up our own country. Because we need to craft a new foreign policy of engagement and collaboration. We need to create a new national security strategy that identifies threats and forges new alliances to reduce them before we're backed into a corner where the only options appear to be military. But make no mistake about it, doing those things all depends on our making ourselves stronger here at home. We are a great country. We are a good and we are a compassionate and we are a generous people. We do not denigrate women. We do not denigrate new Americans. Instead, we believe in the spirit of the pluribus unum, that we're all in this together. Our diversity is what makes us strong. And we need each other if we're going to succeed. So I need you. I know there are many people who would say to me, boy, you've got some long shot odds in this race. I kind of like long odds. I like tough fights. It's the toughness of the fight that shows you you're fighting for something worth saving. The American dream is worth saving. Our country is worth saving. This planet is worth saving, and I need your help in this fight. Thanks very, very much for coming out. So the fun part, questions, answers. Yes, sir.
So, Governor, I'm hesitant to say this, but if I heard correctly, I was born the year you graduated law school.
Oh, wow. Boo. Here, sit down. Next question. Next question.
But that makes me a millennial, so I'm concerned about our nation's future, much like you are, and I appreciate that you put forward specific plans and very strong goals for you as president when you go into office. So I'm curious, a lot of your plans require a lot of domestic investment, so what plans do you have to sort of pay for those investments and make room for them in the budget?
Yeah, I would ask the wealthiest among us to do a little more. Certainly, what we've been able to do in our country is to maintain a progressive income tax. We now have concentrated wealth and power so firmly in the hands of so few that it is keeping us from having an economy that actually works for all of us, where the dollars circulate and where our economy actually grows at healthy rates. So I don't think any millionaires were suffering too greatly from tax rates in the first term of Ronald Reagan, but our country was doing better, and we were able to make the investments we needed to in our infrastructure and in our future. In my own state, and this falls under the category of don't tell me what you'll do, tell me what you've done. In our own state, we passed a progressive income tax. Top 15% of us were asked to do a little more. I know you don't have an income tax. Each state's a little different, but hear me out. We also raised the 42nd lowest sales tax in the country by 1 penny, and that funded our increased investment in our public schools. And we asked our corporations to pay another single percent, which took us to the middle of states in our region. And that's what allowed us to greatly reduce the huge deficit that I had inherited from my Republican predecessor, and it also allowed us to achieve the things we did economically that made our economy grow. Yes, sir.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
And I'll make you feel a little bit better. We graduated law school the same year. So.
All right. Very young man. Yes, the young man in the corner has a question.
So the first one is, since Jimmy Carter, no Democratic president has increased the deficit. No Republican president has decreased the deficit. Every Democrat has left office with a smaller deficit than the beginning, or a Republican has left with a bigger one. Democrats never make that argument. Will you make that argument? And then two, we both grew up never being at war. Vietnam ended in 72. We didn't go back to the Gulf until 92. Millennials have never had a day of peace. What are you going to do? We've been at war since 1992, so like I said, 4 years without being at war. What's your plan for the Middle East?
Yeah, I believe we need to be decidedly less interventionist and decidedly more collaborative and far-seeing in anticipating events. It's a lot easier to topple a brutal dictator than it is to build a stable democracy in a place that's really never had a long history of stable democracies. That takes long time work. No easy button. Some of the Republicans you listen to would tell you about ISIS that they can simply bomb their way out of that problem. That's not the real world. We need to work more collaboratively with other nations who are on the front there. Not the go-it-alone approach. But in terms of ISIS, I believe that we have to stay involved, to contain, to degrade, to cut off financing, to interrupt propaganda, but we do that best, as we always have historically in the world, not when we go it alone, but when we are in collaboration with other nations, when we're leading by the power of our principles, including a greater role that I think we need to play in stepping up in the face of this refugee crisis. Right now, there are more refugees roaming the planet than at any time since the Second World War. And that's the sort of moral leadership that we can exercise in the community of nations. We have other powers besides our military. We need to dial up the sustainable development, dial up the diplomacy. I am in favor of the Iran nuclear deal. We have to police it, we have to enforce it, we have to verify it. But you don't negotiate with your friends, you negotiate with your adversaries. And so that's where I see our role in the world. I think our role in the world is to lead by example the rise of a global middle class. And there are a lot of ways that we do that outside of our borders that are not just military. It's going to require collaboration. and the power of our own humility as a people to acknowledge that some of these things cannot be fixed overnight, but they can be made better. Yes, ma'am.
Just to follow up on your middle class topic.
Hey, Will, could you grab me a coffee with a little cream, please? Thanks a lot. Yes, ma'am.
40 years ago, when Jim Rouse set up the Enterprise Foundation, Baltimore was very much his laboratory, and his goal was to eliminate.
And tell us all who Jim Rouse was.
Jim
You
Rouse,
used to work for Jim Rouse.
Yeah, he was the man who built Columbia, Maryland. You might know him from his festival marketplaces throughout the country.
So Baltimore's Inner Harbor, which then Faneuil Hall and that redevelopment down there by the water followed. He also, his work was all over the world now, right? In I know Sydney, Australia.
He was in Sydney, right.
And he was a great thinker, great humanitarian. Understood, he talked a lot about planning. And while he built the first planned community in the middle of forest and woods in the middle of Howard County, by the end of his life, he was really leading a new kind of urbanist approach.
Yeah, and he was devoting his work to making housing affordable, to generations of people. He wanted to focus on affordable housing. So it was heartbreaking to see what happened in Baltimore this year, because they had worked so much in Baltimore. But
no city is without its setbacks, but it was one night out of 365 in the course of a year.
Oh, absolutely.
And we're more resilient than we were. So anyway.
And so the question is that Barack Obama's administration has not focused as much on cities as those in the affordable housing community would like to have seen. And affordable housing is the key to a burgeoning middle class. So
yeah, great question.
About that.
Thank you. On that night that you mentioned, you can imagine the heartbreak we felt in our city. Mm-hmm. And in my announcement on top of Federal Hill, in a line that was not in the speech, I said, on that night, all of us realized that our country was Baltimore, and Baltimore was our country. We need a new agenda for America's cities. We haven't had an agenda for American cities since Jimmy Carter's day. And so stay tuned. We will be rolling one out. Rolled out a piece of it on the criminal justice reform agenda, with a topic that I have learned a great deal about in the course of 23 years of tending that wound of race and law enforcement and violence and addiction. But the new agenda for American cities, I think a leading edge of it is investments in affordable workforce housing and higher density in urban cores. Another piece of it is investments in mass transit. One of the greatest barriers to upward economic mobility is a lack of mobility itself. And then the third piece is to make our cities the leading edge of a clean, green, designed future in terms of our energy uses. And I think we have the opportunity in all of those things together to actually seed new industries in architecture and design, living buildings, net zero homes, the sort of distributed solar panels. I've had the pleasure to actually fly over Baltimore many times in a helicopter. She already looks like a solar panel, but she's just not plugged in. Nothing but flat blacktop roofs, and that's true of every city. The places where the energy is used the most is where the people live. The most people live in the greatest concentration, and cities could be the cutting edge of that. We're doing some good things. When were you last home? When were you last in Baltimore?
Oh, God. I've been with Bart last year.
Oh, last year?
Yeah.
Well, we're doing some good things there. Jim Rouse wanted to develop that area between Johns Hopkins and the railroad tracks, and went in a different direction, went to the west side. And there's good work that's been done in Sandtown. And I'll tell you what, my last comment on this, but as soon as that night of unrest happened, I flew home. I cut a trip short in London. I was watching this from afar. I had to get home. And I walked right into North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue, the heart of where the protests were. And it was very obvious as soon as I walked into that crowd of people that the good people had come out and taken over. And as much as some of the cable networks wanted to goad people into another night of unrest, the good people were really, really inspiring in the way, in the poorest of our neighborhoods, they came together. So fear not, better days ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I'm Bonnie Wright from the Hampshire Right to Know GMO. And 64 countries across the world have mandatory labeling laws. The United States and Canada are the only two industrialized countries without a labeling law. 93% of Democrats and 85% of Republicans favor a mandatory labeling law. But the U.S. House just passed a law, still has to go to the Senate, to block it, states from having labeling laws, make it difficult for the FDA to have labeling laws. It's a concern, and there's millions of us who think it's a big issue that hasn't been raised yet in the
Yeah, it actually comes up fairly frequently. I need a better, clearer policy. I'm inclined to believe that more information is always best, and that labeling, especially of things that we put in our bodies and the food that we eat, is something important and good. So that's, I mean, in our own state, they told us if we banned phosphates in detergent in order to protect our streams, it would make that we'd all be wearing dirty clothes for 10 decades because the industry would never catch up and do that in the other states. But we led as a state, and that led to greater awareness. And then they found a way to make detergents without as much phosphates in them that hurt the water. So I'm inclined, Bonnie, to believe that more labeling is good rather than bad. Yes?
I was glad that you talked about refugees earlier. And right now, this is a huge humanitarian crisis in Europe where the people from Syria are trying to come over. And there are other countries like Britain who are accepting some of those refugees. What do you think the role of the United States should be, especially where right now there seems to be so much anti-support?
Yeah. I believe that we should be doing more rather than less. I believe that the enduring symbol of our country is not barbed wire fences and chain link fences and for-profit prisons. The enduring symbol of our country is the Statue of Liberty. And in order to be credible as a leader among nations and act with other nations to protect our own security and the well-being of our own people, we have to practice what we preach, and we have to act according to our principles. I think that we should accommodate and more refugees than we are. I mean, I think Germany is taking more than anyone right now. And God bless the Germans, right? But I think we need to do better. Even in some limited instances, there's been a wholesale slaughter of Chaldean Christians in Syria, but even doing the screening required to allow those folks to come here and relocate with family members who are fleeing literally for their lives has been a very, very slow and cumbersome process for our federal government. So we need to do the screenings, yeah, you need to protect security and all of that, but we can't let people like Donald Trump and the sort of hate speak about new immigrants keep us from acting as Americans.
Many of those people are highly educated and middle-class people who are running for their lives and for their children's lives.
Right, as many of our parents and grandparents did before. Donna was telling me that her family came to St. Clement's Island, 1631, right? In Maryland. Yeah, I think we should be doing more. And when the refugee kids were escaping death gangs in Guatemala and Honduras, remember last summer, that crisis, because we don't pay attention to events in our own hemisphere. I parted with our president on that policy, and we actually received more immigrant kids than any other state in the union per capita, but we didn't put them in these giant penned-in chain link facilities. We placed them in foster homes that I brought the faith leaders together to recruit and train and make available, and it actually worked.
All right, it appears that is the end of that clip of Martin O'Malley speaking in New Hampshire. Very interesting to listen to him talk. We don't get to hear from him too often, but he is one of the candidates that is running against Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, looking to get that Democratic nomination for president. So it was nice to share those remarks with you guys. In terms of what else is going on in the world, lots and lots is going on. I know Ron Hoon is a bit tied up right now. We are supposed to hear from him a little bit later on. He's supposed to chime in on the fact that Joe Biden finally addressed the fact that he is thinking about running in 2016. Hear what he had to say exactly in just a few minutes when Ron Hoon joins me a little bit later on. In terms of what else is going on in the world, well, you know that there's a lot going on. There's Ron Biden, there's Joe Biden speaking about 2016. Also, another topic that's trending nationwide, Rowan County was trending because they are issuing gay marriage licenses after that Kentucky clerk was found in contempt of court yesterday. So today was a big day. You can see all over Twitter that various gay couples were getting their marriage licenses today in that county in Kentucky. It was trending. The whole topic of same-sex marriage was trending all over Facebook. As you know, Kim Davis was the clerk that was starting some controversy because she felt that gay marriage was against her personal religious beliefs, and it sort of spurred this whole discussion and debate. Let me see if I have any video on this topic right now. There we go. We do have a full story on it, courtesy of Fox. So let me just go ahead and pull this up. Again, this is a story that's trending nationwide.
Marriage licenses for same-sex couples are once again being issued in Rowan County, Kentucky. Surrounded by cameras, William Smith Jr. and James Yates received their paperwork shortly after the county clerk's office opened. The deputy clerk issued the license, congratulating the couple of nearly 10 years before they received cheers and a hug from Mom.
This means,
I would rather not say.
at least for this area,
What is the
civil rights are civil rights, and they're not
I think
subject to belief.
Demonstrators supporting same-sex marriage and religious groups who uphold traditional definitions of marriage converged once again on the courthouse. County Clerk Kim Davis, a Christian whose refusal to issue the licenses on religious grounds defied both a Supreme Court ruling and an order from a federal judge, was jailed Thursday on a contempt citation. Davis turned down a deal that would have led to her release, under which her deputies could issue the licenses. Her husband Joe held a sign at her office reading, "Welcome to Sodom and Gomorrah." He said his wife will not resign and criticized the judge's decision.
I would defy him. I defy our government. We have no government in the United States no more.
The White House has even weighed in, with a spokesman for President Obama saying no public official is above the law. That despite the fact that the president himself has declined to enforce selected laws over the years. Now the refusal of an Oregon judge to marry same-sex couples could spark a similar legal showdown in the Beaver State. In Washington, James Rosen, Fox News.
All right, James Rosen, thanks for that report. So that is the update regarding that whole controversy out of Kentucky. Another story that we brought you earlier this week, that crazy story out of New Jersey, the daycare fight club. You guys know this story. Many of you just appalled in the chat room when I brought this up the first time around. Basically, these individuals, these daycare employees, accused of making the children in the daycare fight each other, even referring to it as a fight club. Well, those two individuals were in court. I'm going to go ahead and pull up this video right now. And there we go. Video from court.
Miss White?
From just outside of court, rather. Let me just get you some updated information regarding this story. Two daycare workers pleading not guilty after allegedly creating a toddler fight club. Erica Kenny and Shanice White appeared in court this morning. This was Elizabeth, New Jersey. They are charged with child abuse after encouraging those young kids to fight on the playground and then recording them on camera. Their next court date is October 15th.
Good morning, prosecutor. Good morning, Your Honor. Your appearance. Michael Sheets on behalf of the state of New Jersey. Ms. Kenny, I have an address of 8 Heatherly Place in Cranford.
Yes.
Is there an apartment?
No.
Thank you.
Okay.
You can have a seat, and then you'll talk to the order for the next court date.
Okay.
Shanice White. Cranford, charging you with 1 count, cruelty and neglect of children, while employed as an assistant teacher at Lightbridge Academy. You understand your charges?
Yeah.
And as to that charge, you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to be represented by an attorney, you have the right to not take the prosecutor.
All right, guys, that was just some of the raw video from court this morning. Again, both of those individuals pleading not guilty. I want to read a few of your comments. Tree saying they'll probably just get a slap on the wrist, sadly. When it comes to kids, I don't have much faith in our courts. Apple Snapple saying enough eyeshadow there. Wow. Oh, Apple Snapple. And Tess saying, could you imagine how these women would be treated in jail or prison? I bet they'd get their butts kicked. And that's it in terms of your comments on this story regarding the New Jersey daycare fight club. Again, a very disturbing story. I know one of you guys in the chat room had brought up just a heartbreaking story about the Syrian boy that washed ashore. It's been getting a lot of attention, these images of refugees fleeing from Syria, trying to get away from ISIS, many of them dying in the process, trying to cross the sea, trying to get to Europe. And it's a really tragic story. It's something that we'll talk about a little bit later on. Hopefully I'll be able to get Ron Hoon up here, or I'll be able to have that discussion with Steve. I know Steve had mentioned that story in our morning meeting today, so it's definitely a conversation I want to have with you guys and with someone else up here as well. Just wanted to give you a heads up that we are aware of that story, one of the many tragic stories right now. There's so many sad stories right now out in the world, so many tragedies. For example, the next story I'm going to bring up is about that officer who was shot and killed in Texas, just completely out of nowhere, execution style at the gas station. Just a very, very tragic incident. Well, his funeral service was held this morning, and we have video of that. This is, let me just pull this up. Hold on a second. It looks like we don't have it. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm going to play a story for you while I go ahead and try to figure out this situation. Here's an interesting story out of Missouri. Child fatally shoots an intruder. Wow. Let's go ahead and watch this now.
Family members of the victim say he was about to celebrate his 17th birthday. But there he was, being carried out of the home police say he tried to burglarize. This happened on the 10,000 block of Hallwood in unincorporated St. Louis County. After several attempts to break into this house, the 16-year-old tried the front door. It was unlocked.
The 11-year-old who was inside picked up a handgun and fired 1 round, striking the suspect and fatally wounding him.
The 16-year-old's accomplice ran away but was quickly caught by police. Investigators are now questioning the 11-year-old and his mother, trying to determine why he and a 4-year-old were home alone and why a gun was so easily accessible.
What we believe at this time through speaking with the mother is that she had purchased this handgun because of several attempts to actually get inside of the home.
Family and neighbors of both the 11 and 16-year-olds say neither were squeaky clean kids, but the situation still shocked them.
I didn't think he would be capable to do anything like this. It just makes you think where they're learning from, or where is the, basically where's the parent.
It just seems that anybody at this point can pull a trigger on a weapon, and it's very scary.
Alright guys, I'm just trying to work out the video of the funeral. It looks like we're going to have to reclip that video of the funeral, but we will be playing that, if not during the morning edition of News Now, then the afternoon edition of News Now. So prepared for some emotional moments. Get the tissue ready if you are emotional and funerals make you sad. So in terms of any breaking news right now, it doesn't look like a lot is going on. Let me go ahead and show you what the 10-day forecast looks like. It is amazing. This is probably the highlight of the week, not gonna lie. Looking at these temperatures, the high today is 94 degrees. I do not remember the last time I looked at this 10-day forecast and saw a high of 94, let alone a low in the 70s. That is right. The high today is 94 degrees, low 79. It was absolutely beautiful when I was walking into work this morning. I wasn't sure if I was even in Arizona.
I didn't think he would be capable to do anything like this. It just makes you think where they're learning from, you know, or where is the, you know, basically where's the parent?
It just seems that, you know, anybody at this point, you know, can pull a trigger on a weapon, and it's, yeah, it's very scary.
All right, guys, again, 94 degrees as the high. It's pretty nice out there. So, I mean, again, there's some possible rain in the forecast. As you see, the raindrops and the lightning bolts right there on the Friday portion of the broadcast. But still fairly pleasant indeed. So here's the thing. Right now, I don't have Ron Hoon here in person right this second, but I feel like if I play a clip of Ron Hoon, then maybe, just maybe, he will show up. What do you guys think? So I'm going to put it out there in the universe, like, you know, The Secret or whatever. Play this clip of Ron Hoon doing his interview with Mike Wallace this morning. And then maybe, just maybe, Ron Hoon will be joining right after. No guarantees, but I'm hoping.
He's back. 6:21, we love our Friday visits with Chris Wallace, who is the host of Fox News Sunday. So, morning, Chris.
Morning to you, Ron.
Donald Trump says he'll sign the loyalty pledge. So let me ask you which you think is the bigger deal, that he has apparently taken the threat of an independent campaign apparently off the table, or the fact that this GOP race right now is shaping up as an insurgency. The fact that voters don't seem to want a Bush or a Rubio. They want a non-politician.
Well, I'm not sure either is of enormous importance, and let me explain. It is very interesting because if you add the votes, the support in the national polls of Trump and Ben Carson, the retired neurosurgeon, and Carly Fiorina, who have one thing in common, and that is that none of them has spent a day of their life in public office, it's well up over 40%. So you're exactly right that at this moment, they are really looking, Republican voters, for a non-politician. Having said that, you got to remember, it's the very beginning of September the year before. At this point, back in 2007, the leaders for the Republican nomination were Rudy Giuliani and Fred Thompson, and I didn't see either of them in Minnesota when they gave the nomination out. So I mean, I think you could overstate how important what the polls are now. In terms of Trump and third-party candidacy, it certainly is a relief for Republicans because, you know, there was a concern if he didn't get the nomination, and right now he is the front runner, that he might run as a third-party candidacy, and that would almost certainly hand the presidency to a Democrat. But again, having said that, it's a lot harder than it was back when Ross Perot ran as an independent in '92. It's more expensive. It's harder to get on the ballot in a lot of states. So I think most insiders thought that Trump might play the card, or at least threaten to play the card, but he wasn't going to run as a third-party candidate anyway. Having said that, you know, it's better to have him taking the pledge. But even then, it's not binding. I mean, he said he's going to observe it, but we've, you know, the road is littered with presidents or presidential candidates tearing up their promises.
Now, speaking of the Democrats, Hillary Clinton not only can't seem to get away from the email scandal. This week we learned one of her former staffers who played a key role in setting up the private server is going to invoke his right against self-incrimination. Take the fifth. Now, Chris, many people have done that over the years in Washington. So I don't know if that's a big deal or not a big deal. But does it hurt her?
Oh, sure, because remember, she's saying she did nothing wrong, and certainly nothing, not only not criminal, nothing improper, and now you have the person who actually set up the server saying that he is going to take the Fifth Amendment because he doesn't want to incriminate himself and possibly face criminal charges. Now, it may well be that that's just a lawyer being very careful about what his client should do. But having said that, you know, on the one hand, she says there's nothing wrong, and on the other hand, one of her aides is saying, I'm pleading the fifth. You know, there are certain words you don't want if you're running for president. Inspector General, FBI investigation, pleading the fifth, and those are all things that are swirling around Hillary Clinton's campaign.
It's 3 for 3 on that one, Chris. Excellent point. Now, let me get much more serious here for just a moment. We have had 4 police officers gunned down in this country in the last 2 weeks. Some say the rhetoric coming out of Washington has to change. Others say it's time for stronger gun laws. One way or another, this problem's got to be addressed. Tell us, Chris, how you're going to be getting into this issue on Sunday.
Well, you're exactly right, Ron. We noticed it and are horrified by it like everybody else. I think maybe the most shocking case was the one down in Houston where a sheriff's deputy was pumping gas, minding his own business, and a young black man walks up behind him and pumps 15 bullets into him, and the sheriff says it was an assassination because the deputy was in uniform. So we're going to be talking about this on Sunday, and there are a lot of aspects at it. One, the targeting of police officers. 2, a spike in the murder rate in a lot of America's inner cities. The criticism, as you point out, of President Obama. Why does he seem to be more public and more vocal when it's a young black man who's been killed, like Michael Brown or Trayvon Martin, than he is when it's a white police officer? We're going to talk about all of this with the police chiefs of 2 of America's big cities, both of which have seen a spike in murders in their cities. The chief of Milwaukee, Ed Flynn, and the police chief of Philadelphia, Charles Ramsey. Very serious issue, very troubling, and we'll talk about it on Sunday.
Looking forward to it, Chris. Thanks. By the way, Chris is on at his usual time this Sunday at 8. But starting next week, September 13th, watch for Fox News Sunday at 7 a.m. to be followed by football right here on Fox. Chris, see you next week.
All right, so that is a wrap on the interview with Chris Wallace and Ron Hoon. As I said, maybe if I put a clip of Ron Hoon on the screen, he'll show up. He's not right to my left right now. However, my next strategy in terms of getting Ron Hoon up here is to put his name on the screen, because if he knows his name is on the screen, his body will soon follow. Oh my God, it worked! It totally worked.
Doesn't it always?
Oh my gosh, guys.
I'm going
That's
to.
magic.
Hi, everybody.
Oh my gosh, so we just watched your
Gosh, that was
chat.
Especially good interview with him this week, I thought. I mean, I try to give him tough questions. And like that first one, I'm saying, okay, you know, the average person's just going to say, well, is it good for, you know, does this improve Donald Trump's chances? And I'm like, let's go deeper on this. I mean, update us on what's really going on in this race. Sorry, I got to eat right in front of you here.
Totally fine. I mean, if you want an edible arrangement, feel free to. This is courtesy.
Is that what that is?
This is courtesy of the good people of the Tempe Improv and Stand Up Live.
Oh, gosh.
They're so kind.
Well, so let's just have a little lunchtime.
We'll hang out. We're just having a lunchtime conversation. It's fun, guys. You know how on TV how they had those dinner and a movie shows? This is
exactly
lunch
right.
and a convo.
Yes, that's exactly right. Convo.
No, but on all seriousness, I ran to Ron this morning because Joe Biden finally spoke.
I know.
This is huge because Ron and I weeks ago were convinced that he was going to announce weeks ago. And
we look so foolish.
Well, no,
because we were both convinced it was going to be that week, 3 weeks ago.
I guarantee if one of our viewers decided to go back and screenshot it or clip it just to remind us, then we would feel foolish. But I don't think any of them are that. They're not going to spend that. I don't know. Maybe someone wants to go that far back and call us out. I'm not sure, but the point is, Joe Biden. Could he run? Could he not? Obviously, this is a clip that we need to watch. I'm just going to download it right now. I know that we carried the full Biden appearance yesterday on the evening edition of News Now.
And it's interesting to me that the bigger headline today seems to be Trump signing the pledge, but this is the bigger. This is the bigger story.
Right. I guess. Well, yes, Trump signed the pledge, but we carried that live here, and I already felt like we talked about it yesterday. I mean, it was a big story yesterday.
Well, for us, it's so old.
Yeah, it's so old. Yeah, you're right. The news networks are still talking about Trump signing the pledge, but I really think the story is Biden, because that happened at nighttime, so we've never even had a chance to talk about it.
Okay, and I'll be curious to get your take on it. And I have a definite take, so let's watch.
I was actually, I'll preface it with, I was surprised by his answer.
Okay.
But let's watch. Let's share with the viewers who may have missed it or didn't catch what he said yesterday.
Can you turn it up a little bit over there, too?
I will.
Okay, there we go.
I'll be straightforward with you. The most relevant factor in my decision is whether my family and I have the emotional energy to run. Some might think that is not appropriate. But unless I can go to my party and the American people and say that I am able to devote my whole heart and my whole soul to this endeavor, it would not be appropriate. And everybody talks about a lot of other factors, the other people in the race, and whether I can raise the money and whether I can put together an organization. That's not the factor. The factor is, can I do it? Can my family undertake what is an arduous commitment that would be proud to undertake under ordinary circumstances? But the honest to God answer is I just don't know. And I know from previous experience, after my wife and daughter, and you know, Stu, there's no way to put a timetable on that. If I can reach that conclusion that we can do it in a fashion that would still make it viable, I would not hesitate to do it. But I have to be honest with you and everyone who's come to me. I can't look you straight in the eye and say now, I know I can do that. That's as honest as I can be.
All right, guys, so there was Joe Biden getting very serious, very emotional, just telling it like it is, because he knows that the world has been speculating, every news network, newspapers, everyone out there wondering, will Joe Biden run? People hoping, I mean, he's even placing in the polls without even having announced that he is running. So it definitely says something, and I think the thing that everyone's trying to not say, but the thing that people are factoring in as well is Hillary Clinton's image and reputation after this whole email scandal. Does she have what it takes to take down whatever Republican candidate there is?
That was going.
And that's the biggest thing for the Democratic Party.
And that was going to be kind of my main point, which is that is such a brutally honest assessment from him, and you can tell just by the emotion in his voice, he's still,
torn.
As he will. Well, even more than that, he's still dealing, I think, with a very heavy heart with the loss of his son several months later.
His son told him to.
I know. But it just still has to be so hard. And so that was the kind of honesty that you don't see very often from a politician. I mean, that was not calculating in any way. That was him saying, I'm just going to be as honest as I can be.
Those are my favorites.
It's a tough decision, and I just don't know which way I'm going to go. And I contrast that with the person that some would say is perhaps the most calculating candidate in the entire race.
Hillary.
Correct.
How did I know?
And it's just, I don't know. This kind of brutal honesty is, I think, endears him to people. But let's be realistic. You can't just be a sympathetic figure and win the presidency. People feel sympathy for him right now.
But I also think that he does have experience.
Oh, there's no doubt.
And he looks presidential.
Yeah, he
you know,
does.
my whole who looks like a president? Joe Biden looks like he could be president.
That's right.
But all that aside, I mean, Tess is saying everyone I talk to wants him to run. I think he should run.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's the element where his dying son wanted him to run.
Mm-hmm.
There's the likability factor, the honesty factor. I mean, you're talking about that moment where he's emotional and vulnerable in front of everyone and not trying to front. It's, again, I always go back to this moment months and months ago when I first saw McCain talk about Kayla Mueller. and the emotion and how he felt so disappointed that they did not rescue her. And it was so sincere, and that was the moment that I became McCain obsessed.
But why are our politicians so afraid to show that side? Because I think most of them...
They are. They're so worried and concerned about their image and that people are going to look at them differently. And I get it from like decades and decades ago. Maybe the public would have wanted their politicians to be, you know,
right.
tough as nails. But
oh, not only that, Samia. Here's your 15-second Hooner history lesson for the day. There was a guy who was leading in the race for the presidency. It was either 1968 or 1972. And he started to cry.
And that was it?
In a snowstorm on the steps of a courthouse in New Hampshire. And he never recovered. People blasted him for it. I believe we're
thinking
different.
that he was weak or something.
Right.
But I feel
believe
like
we're
it's
different
so
now.
different now. I feel like
really
it's about
do.
relatability. I feel it's about realness and connection. And I honestly think the internet has a lot to do with it because with social media, with Twitter, with Instagram, whether you are a regular person or someone super famous, people now feel so connected to you, like they know you.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have to be personable and be real now because that's just how society has evolved.
Yeah. Right. So, it's weird. I mean, this guy, he was, his name was Edmund Muskie. It was 1968. No, wait. I think so. And there's actual footage of him out there crying in the snow. And if you think about it now, it could have been perceived as a tender kind of moment because it had to do with his wife, who I think was fighting an illness.
Well, here you go. There's an article from 7 years ago. Frontrunner Ed Muskie's tears are melted snow hurt his campaign. Hurt his something.
Oh, definitely hurt his chances to be president.
Hurt his presidential bid.
Yes. I just don't think...
Reporters saw tears. Campaign aides said it was melted snow. While they disagreed over what exactly happened that February day in 1972, all now agree that Edmund Muskie's emotional outburst at that snowy morning helped to ruin his presidential bid.
And I just don't think it's... Matter of fact, Samia, I know it's not that way. You know why?
Why?
Go back 8 years. Hillary Clinton had lost in Iowa. She was starting to lose in New Hampshire. And she gave that almost kind of tearful response to a question at a town hall meeting. And people flocked to her in a sympathetic way because it seemed like she, for 1/2 of a second, was...
A human?
Well, no, but willing to let herself be completely vulnerable.
Right.
And she won New Hampshire. And a lot of people think it was because of that moment. So think how much we've changed in about 30 years. It's pretty incredible.
True.
So.
Les Chowmain saying political correctness kills personality and the truth.
Right. Yeah.
And Dee says, I couldn't agree with that any more than I do, Les.
Yeah.
It's true.
I do
it's
too.
True. Another story that they brought up in the chat room, I don't know if you want to talk about it. It is kind of sad. It's very sad. Reziak brought it up, I believe. Or someone, was it Reziak? No, I think it was someone else. But Reziak commented on it a little bit later. Who was it? I can't remember exactly who in the chat room mentioned it. Oh yeah, here we go. Carmina Gutierrez. Sami, what about the Syrian little boy who washed ashore? Heartbreaking. This is the saddest. I mean, I don't want to say it's the saddest story out there because there are a lot of people who are dying out there. But this image is one of those images that I think will be one of those timeless images of, you know, the world of news. It'll define this period of news. I think this image of this little boy washed ashore on the Turkish coast. It is.
I just worry, though, that we have become so calloused because there's so much death and violence in our culture that what was the number, the exact number, I forget, but nearly 30 little ones could be gunned down in a first grade elementary school and nothing gets done. That this is, to me, I saw that story and I thought, this just proves Sandy Hook, and now I saw this story from yesterday, and I thought this just proves how you can't say cowardly, but how just removed the world powers are to the chaos that is being wreaked upon Syria and Iraq by ISIS. And
it's so terrible. And that's the thing.
And nobody's willing. So this is the end result. This is the highly predictable end result.
The thing is, it's so funny because people think ISIS is just this terror organization that just beheads people randomly, videotapes it, and throws it on the internet. only attacking Westerners. But the fact of the matter is, ISIS kills more local people than they do foreigners, easily 10 times as many, even maybe more than that. It's so terrible.
I do want to say that even though we said there's that news conference going on and maybe we take it and maybe we don't, I do think that what's happening right now on 6 we probably ought to take. You see who's about to speak?
I do see that Bernie Sanders is about to speak. I know Mike is rolling on it, or we could take it live right now.
I think, let's listen. Let's catch him right now, because,
All right.
I mean, he's on the verge right now of not just passing her in Iowa, but passing her nationally.
Meskwaki Nation, and I want to thank all of you who are here, who are in the nation, or who are not. What I would like to do is just to chat for a few moments about the issues of concern not only to Native Americans, but I think to people all over this country. And I notice we have a whole lot of young people here, and I thank them for coming. And I hope that they will stand up and tell us what's on their mind, some of the concerns they have, some of the things that they would like to see. And I certainly hope that others in the audience as well. Judith, I do know this is not 28,000 people that we saw in Portland, Oregon. This is a wonderful turnout and far more than we expected, and I thank all of you for being here. Let me just say a couple of things. First, our country faces today as a nation perhaps more serious problems than we have ever faced in the modern history of this country. That's just the simple fact. And one of the concerns that I have, and one of the reasons I like doing meetings like this, is that in many ways we are not having the kinds of discussions that we need about the issues. In a democracy, people can disagree with each other. That's acceptable. That's part of a democracy. But it is very important that we debate and discuss the real issues facing our country. And one of the concerns that I've had is that very often media, when you turn on the TV or you look at the newspapers, they look at politics and elections as if they were a baseball game or a soap opera, rather than a discussion of the very, very serious issues facing our country. And what I'm trying to do in this campaign is lay those issues out, tell you what I think the problems are, how I think we should resolve those problems. People disagree with me, that's fine, let's do it. Okay, first issue, when we talk about what's going on in America, are we content with the level of income and wealth inequality? All right, let me ask the young people here. You guys ready for a tough question? All right, what do I mean by income and wealth inequality? Anybody know? Who wants to help me out here? What it means is that in our country today, we have more income and wealth inequality than any other major country on earth, and it is worse today than at any time since 1928. So what does it mean? In simple language, it means the wealthiest people in this country are becoming much, much richer, while most other Americans are becoming poorer. And the gap between the very, very rich, everybody else is growing wider. Just a few facts. In America today, the top 0.1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. What do you think about that? 0.1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. You have in America today one family, the owners of Walmart, who own more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people. In America today, 58% of all new income that is generated is going to the top 1%. In other words, at a time when worker productivity and technology is exploding, workers and the middle class are not benefiting from that. Almost all of the new wealth and income being generated is going to the top 1%. I think that's wrong, and we're going to fight together for an economy that works for the middle class and working families of this country rather than just the people on top. Okay, a second issue. It's not just that we are talking about income and wealth inequality. We are talking about what is happening to the middle class of this country. And here's the truth. We are much better off today economically than we were 7 years ago when President Bush left office. At that point, we were losing about 800,000 jobs a month. Today, report just came out today, we're gaining, I think it's 170,000 jobs. But having said that, is the economy where we want it to be? What is happening to the middle class of this country has been happening over the last 40 years. Has it been growing or has it been disappearing? It's dying. It is dying for 40 years. We're better off today than we were 7 years ago, but for the last 40 years it has been in decline. Today, American workers in inflation accounted for dollars earn substantially less than they did years and years ago, despite worker productivity being up. How does it happen that in Iowa or in my state of Vermont, we have all over this country millions of people not working one job, they're working 2 jobs, and sometimes they're working 3 jobs. And the reason for that is that wages in America are much too low. Much too low. I was in Des Moines a couple of months ago, and a guy there told me that 90% of the people who go to the emergency food shelf are working people. They're just not earning enough money to support their family. They need extra help. And that is why I believe we have got to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, and that means $15 an hour over the next several years. And that means that if somebody works 40 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty. I think that that makes a lot of sense. Now, there's another issue I want to talk about, which impacts the Native American community all over this country, but it impacts all Americans, and that is unemployment, okay? If you read the newspapers literally today, what they will tell you is that official unemployment is 5.1%. Well, that's not too bad, not great, not too bad. But that's not what real unemployment is. If you look at another statistic, which includes those people who have given up looking for work or are working part-time when they want to work full-time, real unemployment is over 10%. Over 10%. And now let me tell you something that almost nobody talks about. I wonder if the kids want to jump up on this one. What about youth unemployment? What about youth unemployment? Is it easy for kids to go out in America and find jobs? The answer is no. I asked for a study to be done about 6 weeks ago or so on youth unemployment. And what they found is that youth unemployment in this country is very, very high. 30%, 40%, 50%, depending whether you're white, you're black, Hispanic, whatever you may be. And that is not unrelated to another fact. How many people here know that in the United States we have more people in jail than any other country? Do you all know that? That's right. We have more people in jail. We are the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and yet almost all of the new income and wealth is going to the top 1%, and we have huge levels of youth unemployment. What happens when you have 5.5 million young people, high school graduates, who have no jobs and who are not in school? What happens to those kids? They often get into trouble. And that is one of the reasons why we have so many people in jail. In my view, I would much rather invest in jobs and education for these kids than in jails and incarceration. It costs us a lot more money, I hope you all know this, to send a young person to the University of Iowa than to send them to jail. Do you all know that? So I would rather invest in education, make sure that these kids and all kids in America have the training and the education they need to go out and get decent paying jobs rather than hanging out on street corners, doing drugs, getting themselves in trouble, and ending up in jail. Now, when we talk about education, let me tell you what we are trying to do. All of you know that it is becoming more and more difficult for working families to afford to be able to send their kids to college. And I have introduced legislation which does two basic things. Number one, it says that in the United States of America, every public college and university should be tuition free. Now that is obviously, a good idea for young people who are looking forward to go to college or who can't afford to go to college. But I'll tell you what else it does, and this is where it is pretty revolutionary. In Iowa, in Vermont, and all over this country, I think everybody knows this, there are kids today who are in the 4th or 5th grade. Like my parents, they never went to college. They don't know anybody who ever went to college. When I grew up, our family didn't know anybody who went to college, or very few people. And they, in their hearts, never believe that they will have the opportunity to make it into the middle class and to get a higher education. And when you have that attitude when you are young, you give up on school. You don't study. You don't do your homework. And maybe you drop out of school. If we can tell every kid in America, and this is you guys, that if you are serious, if you study hard, if you do well in school, you will be able to get a college education regardless of the income of your family. I think that revolutionizes education in America. And by the way, when we talk about raising the minimum wage and making sure that people have decent incomes in America, there's another issue we have to talk about, and that is that every man, I would hope, that every man in this room will stand with the women and make sure that we fight for pay equity for women workers. Women now make 78 cents on the dollar compared to men, and that is indefensible. Nothing to be said about that. Let me touch on a few other very significant issues. Many of you know that 5 years ago, the United States Supreme Court rendered the Citizens United decision. You know about the Supreme Court's decision. In my view, that decision is one of the worst decisions in the history of the United States of America. And what it says, which is extremely undemocratic, it says to the wealthiest people in this country who already own much of our economy, it says to these guys, you can now spend as much money as you want to purchase the United States government. You can select a candidate. You can give that candidate tens and tens of millions of dollars. You can make him a senator, a governor, a president. That's what you can do. I think that idea is a terrible idea. I think that the campaign finance system we have now in politics is corrupt. It is corrupt. And it is undermining American democracy. And that is why I believe that we have got to overturn that Supreme Court decision. And that is why I believe we also should move toward public funding of elections. You know what? I want any of these young people or any person in this room, anybody, whether they're conservative, progressive, moderate, whatever their politics may be, Republican, Democrat, I want them to be able to run for office without having to beg millionaires for campaign contributions. And when we talk about the economy, there's another thing we have to talk about. When we have youth unemployment so high and unemployment in general so high, in my view, we need a massive federal jobs program in this country. And the best way forward is to put millions of people to work rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. In my state and in your state, our roads and our bridges and our water systems, rail, airports, levees, dams are crumbling. A $1 trillion investment will create 13 million decent paying jobs, and that's what I intend to do.
All right, guys, I'm not sure why we cut out of this event right this second. It's very unclear as to what is going on. In the meantime, I'm going to dip into this press conference going on in Kentucky in regards to that clerk.
Anybody else here want to address anything?
I just want to say one thing and confirm what Matt has already said. Kim is a victim here. It's a victim of her own choice, but she has not done anything to have herself incarcerated. It's what the governor has not done. And the Kentucky law is very clear. Matt went over it, but it's very clear that when you infringe someone's religious freedom, you have to prove, and the word is prove, two things: that you have a compelling interest, and we can stipulate that he wants to get the marriage licenses out, but that he's used the least restrictive means in doing that. And you know, because you've covered the story, the governor has not lifted a finger to help the clerks. What he's told them is do your job or quit. And another time he said, we'll let the courts and the clerks work it out, which means he allowed her to be sued professionally and personally by the ACLU to punish her for her convictions. That's just wrong. The governor can fix it now, and all of this commotion should be laid at his feet. I remind you, he vetoed that law in 2013, and it was passed over his veto. So not only did he veto it, he's ignoring it now. He is not above the law. He's the one that should be investigated as to whether he's following the law.
Will you file suit, or will the foundation file suit to void these licenses?
The Family Foundation is not in that at all. When we took off to support marriage with the Constitutional Marriage Protection Amendment, we believe that every child need to have the opportunity for a mother and a father. We still believe that. But the court has spoken, so we have no interest in depriving somebody of anything. We are firmly standing on the fact that this implied right from the Constitution of same-sex marriage should not override an expressed right for religious freedom.
So does the Family Foundation then see these licenses as valid?
That's not in our purview. We're a policy organization, and we try to advise the government, whether it be the governor or legislators, as what's good policy. We can't override the Supreme Court, and we're not a judicial or a legal firm. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I don't want to keep you out here any longer in the hot sun, and sorry that we got started a little bit late. Our time with Kim went a little bit longer than we thought, but it was a great meeting with her. And again, I'll just end with this. She ended our conversation as she began her conversation, all is well. And I have no doubt that Kim will rest well tonight, even though she won't be with her family for this Labor Day weekend. But she is a contented person, and she's a convicted person of conscience. And we need more people that have conscience, whether you agree with her or not, that have conscience and convictions and are willing to stand in their conscience and convictions like Kim Davis does. And for that, she should be an encouragement to anyone, any person of conscience. So thank you very much.
All right, guys, so that was the tail end of a press conference about the whole Kim Davis situation, the Kentucky clerk a very controversial position, choosing not to issue same-sex marriage licenses because it went against her own personal religious beliefs. We've been covering the story over the last couple of days. Yesterday she was in court. She was found in contempt of court. And yeah, we just heard the tail end of that press conference. That's one of the top stories today, that story specifically, trending nationwide. Another top story, well, here locally in Phoenix, actually just happened, was the shooting at 17th Street in Highland. 2 people found fatally shot in this, in this parking garage. It is the craziest story. It's a parking garage of an office building or office complex. 17th Street in Highland. 2 people with gunshot wounds. Paramedics pronounced them dead on the scene. We don't have a lot of information, but these are aerials that Skyfox shot about an hour ago, sharing these with you right now, in case you missed it the first time around.
Oh, yeah. One that we're putting together. Yeah. So tomorrow is their first show downtown, and it said on New Times, it goes, get there early, doors open at 7. Thousands of people have signed up on Facebook.
All right, guys, so just going to fast forward a little bit of this video so you guys can see stuff that's happening. You can see that there was a firefighters responding to the incident. You can see paramedics on the scene. Again, this happened we learned about it about an hour ago, and just wanted to give you guys an update. Again, we don't have any new information, but wanted to let you guys know in case you missed it the first time around. In the meantime, it looks like we have gotten the Bernie Sanders event in Iowa back on, so I'm going to go live to that. And I'll be with you a little bit later on.
Ever have understood that we gain sustenance, we gain life from nature. You destroy nature, you destroy life. And that is what we are doing globally right now, and that has got to change. Now, I want to mention, when you run for president, one of the fun things, it's not always fun, but sometimes there are fun things, and one of them is that you can talk about issues that other people choose to sweep under the rug, not talk about. Let me talk about 2 or 3 issues. Number 1, question to everybody here. How many major industrialized countries like the United States, how many major countries around the world do not guarantee health care to all people as a right? Anyone know the answer? There's one country. Country's not Canada, not Germany, not France, not the United Kingdom, not Sweden, not any other major country. That country is the United States of America. And I want to end that international disgrace. The Affordable Care Act has done a lot of good. It has provided insurance and health care access to many millions of people. It's a step forward. It doesn't go far enough. We have 35 million people in this country who have no health insurance, and we have even more, including people in this room, who are underinsured with high deductibles and high copayments. Is that right? All right. And when you don't have health insurance, or when you have a high deductible, you hesitate going to the doctor. And when you hesitate going to the doctor, that's a dumb thing, because you can end up a lot sicker than you otherwise would have, and sometimes you can die. I want to see a nation in which every person, when they're ill, is able to go to the doctor regardless of the cost. And that's why I support a Medicare for all single-payer program. And another issue that we don't talk about enough is, some of you may know that about 20 or 25% of the American people, when they go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, Mary, I'm going to write you out a prescription, 20-25% of the time, the people who receive that prescription from their doctor don't have the money to be able to purchase the drugs they need. That makes no sense at all. In America, we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Many years ago when I was in Congress, tell you the story, I took a busload of women from Vermont. Vermont borders on Canada. I took a busload of women who were dealing with breast cancer, terrible illness. I took them over the Canadian border to buy medicine that they needed for breast cancer. In those days, and it's 15, 20 years ago, they purchased the medicine they needed for 1/10 the price. 1/10 the price they were paying in the United States. Same medicine. That makes no sense at all. And in a variety of ways, the United States government has got to tell the pharmaceutical industry, stop ripping off the American people. And we are going to lower. Give you just one example. I used to be chairman of the Senate Veterans Committee. And to all the veterans in this room, I want to thank you for your service to our country. And I know that there are many veterans within the Native American community. We thank you for your years and generations of service. And this is what I want to say. When men and women put their lives on the line to defend this country, you do not turn your back on them. You make absolutely certain, no matter what the deficit is, that those men and women, those veterans, will get the health care and the other benefits that they have earned, period. Last point, well, one of the last points. I want to talk a little bit about national priorities. I am today what's called the ranking member. That means the leader of the Democratic opposition on the Budget Committee. A number of months ago, the Republican Congress passed their budget. And I want to tell you what was in their budget to give you an example of where their values and their priorities are. And it's not something that is widely known by the American people. Media has done a very poor job in reporting it. But this is what their budget said. At a time when we have 35 million people without any health insurance, their budget threw 27 million more people off of health insurance. And when you ask them, as I do, well, what happens to 27 million people who wake up one day and no longer have health insurance? How many of them will die or end up much sicker than they should have been? They have no answer. Not what they worry about. Everybody here knows that the cost of college is high, difficult for working class families to send their kids to college. Republican budget over a 10-year period cut Pell Grants by $90 billion, making it harder for low-income and working-class families to send their kids to college. All over this country, in my state and in your state, you have families working really hard, earning low wages, can't even afford to put enough food on the table for their kids. Republican budget cut tens of billions of dollars in nutrition programs, including the WIC program, which is designed for low-income pregnant women and their babies. And to add insult to injury, after cutting health care, cutting education, cutting nutrition, you know what they did? They provided over $250 billion in tax breaks to the top 0.2% by repealing the estate tax. Those are not the priorities of the American people. Those are priorities we will vigorously oppose. And when you hear Republicans coming through the state of Iowa campaigning, listen to them closely, because many of them will be talking about cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare, cutting Medicaid. In my view, when you have millions of senior citizens in this country who are struggling to keep their heads above water because they're living on $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 a year, you do not cut Social Security. In fact, you expand Social Security benefits. So what our campaign is about, and I want to close with this, are two things. Number one, I want everybody in this room to think big, not small. Don't get caught up in the debate of whether we should cut education by 2% or 4%. What I want you to ask yourselves is, why is it that we do not have in the wealthiest country in the history of the world the best child care and pre-K system in the entire world? All over this country. You know, we're not living in the 1950s when Dad went to work and Mom stayed home with the kids. Mom is at work as well. And when Mom is at work and Dad is at work, I want the parents to know that when their kids are being taken care of, they are being taken care of by well-trained, well-paid, dedicated child care workers providing the highest quality child care and pre-K education in this country. And I want you also to think big in terms of higher education. When I talk about making public colleges and universities tuition-free, this is not a radical idea. This used to exist in the United States of America 50 years ago. This exists today in Germany, in Denmark, and Sweden. I want you to think big and demand that every person in this country who has the desire and the ability can get a higher education regardless of their income. Last point that I want to make is this. We live in a nation in which incredible power rests in the hands of the few. That's the simple reality. Very few people talk about it, but it's the truth. You have Wall Street, you have corporate America, you have huge campaign donors like the Koch brothers, you have multi-billionaires who have incredible power. In my view, no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do what has to be done for the working families of this country unless there is a political revolution in which millions of people stand up and say, you know what, this country and our government belong to all of us, not just a handful of billionaires. So this campaign, and this I mean from the bottom of my heart, it is not just electing Bernie Sanders. If you elect Bernie Sanders and I don't accomplish anything, it doesn't do anybody any good. We have got to stand together, all of us, the vast majority of people, and fight for a country that works for these kids, that works for our parents, that works for working families, an economy that works for all of us and not just the top 1%. So I invite you, not only for your supporting me in this campaign, I invite you to join the political revolution. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, what I'd like to do now, if it's okay with folks, now you guys have anything to say? Any of you prepare anything? If there are any young people who would like to make a comment or ask a question. I'd love to get to them first. Is that all right? Okay, young man right here, come on up. Can you? Yeah. You got a mic right? Okay, there's a mic right there. And I would like all of you guys to be thinking, don't be shy. All right? Guys, don't be shy. If you have a question, you have a comment, ask it. Yes?
What would you think would happen if you raised the minimum wage?
Okay. What I think would happen is that millions of American workers would have a lot more disposable income, would be able to take care of their kids. And here's the other thing about economics. If you have more money in your pocket as a low-income worker, you're going to go out and spend that money. And when you spend that money, you're going to create another job. So it is, in my view, a lot of different studies, but in my view, our goal economically is to put more money into the hands of working families. There are millions of families in this country who have zero disposable income. Raising the minimum wage would give them more income. Okay? Thank you. Next question. Okay. Speak right into that mic.
All right. So you said you had plans for global warming.
Yeah.
And on the settlement, we have our Meskwaki corn, which is the only corn. It's like the only type in the world. It's so unique to this tribe, and it's so important to us. So I was wondering if you had any plans about like GMOs and hormones and the health of America and what's in our food and making sure that our seeds are protected.
Good question. At the very least, the American people have the right to know what is in the food they're eating. So if you go out, you got a candy bar, don't eat candy bars. But if by some chance you're into junk food, okay, it would tell you how many calories there were in that bar and all that stuff. All over the world, there are dozens of countries which in their labeling say whether or not there are GMOs in the food. I have introduced an amendment as part of the Farm Bill, which failed, didn't win, which makes sure that states have the right to label GMO products. And my state of Vermont, by the way, is the first state in the country to do just that, something I strongly support. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, my question is, what is your position on the Violence Against Women Act reauthorization?
Oh, absolutely supportive of it. Look, I was a mayor for 8 years. And we worked on this issue a whole lot. I don't have to tell anybody in this room that all over this country, women are being beaten, women are being mistreated. We have made progress. The Violence Against Women's Act is an important step forward. We have got to go further. We have to make sure that any woman in this country who feels unsafe in their home will find a place to go safely for herself and perhaps her children. And that's not always the case. There are women who are trapped because there's no place for them to go. So I believe, and by the way, let me just tell you something for the younger people who may not know this. 30 or so years ago, 35 years ago, if a husband beat up his wife and a police officer came to the scene, what the police department would say, well, that's not our business. That's a family dispute. We should not be involved. Did you know that? That's only 30, 35 years ago. When I was mayor of Burlington, we changed that. So right now we have made progress, but the bottom line is we have, and I hope every young man understands that it is not macho, it is not cool to be hitting girlfriends or wives. And there is no excuse for that. That's cowardly. But we need to expand the Violence Against Women Act. That's something I've always strongly supported. Thanks for that question.
My question is, what is your position on the government-to-government relationship between the federal government and tribes?
That's a good question and a complicated question. Without going into history, which many of you know better than I, the federal government, the United States government's relationship to Native Americans has been a disaster from day one. And we all know that. We don't have to rethink history about what happened when the settlers came and what happened to Native Americans and so forth. Right now, throughout this country, in various Indian reservations, the poverty rate, depending on the reservation, is sometimes off the chart. Healthcare and education are inadequate. Unemployment is extraordinarily high. So I think to answer your question in general, I think the United States government has got to work with the tribal people throughout this country to make sure that we do our best to address issues of high unemployment, healthcare problems, education problems. Everything being equal, we want decisions being made by the peoples themselves, not dictated by the government. So there has to be a relationship. But at the end of the day, I would like to see local decisions being made by local people themselves. Before I leave the kids here, anybody else have a comment or a question? Don't be shy. Anything on your minds? Nothing? Okay, we'll open it up to the general public. Anybody has a question or a comment? Yep. No, gentleman right there. Yeah.
You talked briefly about jobs going to China. What would, in economic terms, what would your economic policy regarding China be?
Right now we have a huge trade deficit. All right, let me ask the woman in the back, maybe to be the last questioner. All right, whoever's online now, let's make that the last one, okay? So we're going to have to move. I voted against permanent normal trade relations with China because I understood what corporate America wanted. And what they wanted was to be able to shut down plants in America, not pay workers here a decent wage, move to low-wage countries abroad, like China. And I oppose that. What I want is a trade policy and an economic policy which deals with the fact that we have a huge trade deficit with China. I want corporations right now who are investing heavily in China to think about investing in the United States of America, not in China, and creating jobs right here. Okay, I don't want to be rude, but the gentleman who's last in line now, that will be the last question. Okay, sir, are you in line for a question? Okay, yeah, the fellow behind you. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I was wondering.
Into the mic, please.
I was wondering that if we get the $15 minimum wage, what's to prevent retailers to raise all their product prices, making it just the same as we are right now?
There's a chance that they may raise prices, but it will overall be an economic gain. We have seen in states already around this country where the minimum wage has gone up. It is possible that your hamburger may go up by a few cents. But at the end of the day, it is not going to level out in the sense that you'll be back. If your argument is, will you be back to where you started? The answer is no. If you go from $12 an hour to $15 an hour, you may pay a few cents more for a hamburger. You will be ahead of the game. Absolutely. No doubt about that.
Also, one more thing.
Yeah.
When you were speaking about the medication and the prices, because I am disabled and on Social Security, but before I worked in a pharmacy. And what they do back there is so criminal. For instance, there was a medicine, I forgot the type of problem the lady had, but the pill cost $1,000 and was not covered by insurance. The cost of that medicine to the pharmacy from the pharmaceuticals was $1.58.
Well, thank you for that. You mentioned $1,000 a pill. Hepatitis C is a very serious illness in America. A lot of veterans have it. A new drug came out called Sovaldi. Very good drug. Breakthrough drug for hepatitis C. You know how much they are charging people? $1,000 a pill. They're charging the VA $580 a pill, making huge profits. And that's the kind of change that we need. They can't get away with that. It is fundamentally immoral. There are cancer doctors now who are saying, I cannot prescribe the medicine my patients need because they cannot afford the price. That is absolutely wrong. We're going to work to change that. Thank you for your question.
First of all, how are you doing today, Bernie?
Great.
Secondly, concerning your federal job plan, after this infrastructure is rebuilt and these millions of people, I mean, what's going to happen then? How is their job going to continue? Will they lose their job? I mean, et cetera.
Construction is an ongoing issue. I mean, we have millions of people involved in construction. And I'm a former mayor, and what I can tell you is roads and bridges and tunnels and water systems constantly need upgrading. So you're always going to need work to do that. We need people to build affordable housing. Right now, we are in an especial moment because our infrastructure is in really bad shape because we have not invested in it. So I think we have got to invest a lot in the next few years, create a whole lot of jobs. After that, we want to maintain our infrastructure. But recreating jobs through infrastructure is not the only way we create jobs. Okay? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Bernie. My name is Christina Blackcloud, and I am a Meskwaki citizen of the Sac and Fox tribe of Mississippi and Iowa. And each year, the tribe travels down to Washington, D.C. for a tribal consultation. Will you continue this practice, this consultation with all tribes?
Well, I'll tell you what. I would be so proud to welcome you into the White House. In the short term, drop into my Senate office. Okay, love to see you there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bernie, my name is Jeff Waite, and I'm from Iowa City. And I'm a business owner and a lifelong Republican. And I'm supporting you. You're my guy. I supported Obama. And the thing that bothers me the most about wages, I've been in business for 18 years, and I pay my people the highest wage of anybody in Iowa City. Problem is, insurance eats me alive, workman's compensation eats me alive, the government eats me alive, everybody whittles away from the money that I could be paying those guys more, and not only that, but the IRS, when I was the sole proprietor, they audited me every year. When I was an LLC, they tried to bankrupt me. And until I became an S-Corp, I have not been audited once since I have been an S-Corp. And I'm probably opening a hornet's nest on me, but I don't care. It's wrong. It's wrong.
It is wrong. All right, let me just say two things. All right, I'm going to ask you a question. One of the challenges, do you provide health care to your workers?
I can't afford to.
Okay.
But I pay them, they average between $22.50 to $32.50 an hour.
Okay. Would your life be easier if we had health care for all people through a
Totally,
Medicare for all?
totally.
Okay. All right, that's number one. Number two, you raise an issue of audit. It's a funny thing. I don't have all the facts in my head. It just so happens that the IRS spends more time auditing the little guys rather than auditing the big guys where the money really is.
That's right.
And the big guys, the reason they don't get audited is they have all these fancy lawyers and accountants, you know, who are very, very sophisticated. Little guys you don't have a team of auditors.
No, they would have closed my business down. They tried. And if I didn't have a customer, it's a bad word, who happened to be a banker, who believed in me and my work ethic and loaned me the money to get them off my back, Hawkeye Sewer would not exist today.
Okay. Well, thank you for your support, and you keep up the work. And by the way, I know people will be surprised to hear this. We're getting support from Republicans all across America. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Suzanne, and I'm a farmer and a mother. And I'm very concerned about the fact that we do not enforce antitrust in this country, the consolidation in all of the beef, the milk, every industry is tremendous. And the second part is, as a mother, it breaks my heart to send my son to school because his life is not one of wonder and of having his mind opened. It is one where last year in kindergarten, he was given 6 standardized tests, and he filled out endless worksheets of drill and kill. And I had to send my son off to this. Will you do something about No Child Left Behind, Race to the Top, core curriculum, and all those other things that are hamstringing all of the wonderful teachers who are quitting because they can't teach and they can't do their creativity?
Let me give you, thank you for that. You have raised 2 very important issues. Antitrust, No Child Left Behind. As it happens, I am on the committee that deals with that issue, the Health, Education, Labor Committee. And I am happy to tell you, you may know it, you may not, that in a bipartisan way, this is one area where Democrats and Republicans more or less came together, we are going to end No Child Left Behind for the reasons that we gave. In terms of antitrust, you are absolutely right. You have the Sherman antitrust legislation, which is very rarely enforced. I mentioned a moment ago about Wall Street, which is maybe the best example of 6 large banks in America who issue 65% of the credit cards in America, some of which are charging you 14, 15% interest rates, and 35% of the mortgages. But it is true in commodity, whether it's beef or pork, or in many, many other sectors. I think what you're talking about is 3 or 4 major corporations control the bulk of sales in that sector. And you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. The consumer suffers when we don't have vigorous competition. We have not been anywhere near as strong in enforcing antitrust laws, and I will do that. All right. Now, I know you because I had lunch at your place.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Thank you, Mr. Bernie, for giving us opportunity in small town of Tema to ask you a question. I'm Albanian American. I'm married. I got 2 boys. I own King Tower. I met you at King Tower. I own Lincoln Bridge Inn Motel. And coming to this country, you really know what freedom is. So I'm going to ask you a question, but how tough you standing on national security, confronting rising adversaries, starting from South China Sea. They building artificial military airport, North Korea, which is a product of China. I call them puppet. They threaten the United States with nuclear bombs almost daily basis. South China Sea, they confronting our vessels, confronting our patrol planes, accidents waiting to happen. We have Russia threatening European countries, and why not, when we go to Iran, why not diplomacy first and have a military option on the table? Why we so rushed attacking Iran but not doing anything else for, smoking guns? Thank you very much. Thank you.
You've asked a question which would require a very, very long answer, but let me answer it briefly in this sense. We are living in a very dangerous world. From Albania, you're seeing today what's going on with refugees flooding into Europe, a terrible crisis. The threats that you talked about in terms of Russia, North Korea, are absolutely real and serious threats. In my view, the United States should have and continue to have the strongest military in the world, although, by the way, we've got a lot of waste to eliminate in that military, a lot of waste in that military. But, second point, I believe that a great nation like the United States should use every tool of diplomacy to try to resolve international conflict before you go to war. I heard all that former President Bush and Vice President Cheney and all these guys had to say about why we should go to war in Iraq. I disagreed with them. I voted against that war, and that was one of the best votes that I ever cast. Now, right now, you mentioned Iran. I think no one has great trust for Iran, but the President, Secretary Kerry have negotiated a complicated agreement with Iran, which will have the result of preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, which is the goal we want. This negotiated agreement will allow us to achieve that goal without going to war against Iran, and that is why I support that agreement. So to answer your broad question, the United States, in my view, should work in coalition with other countries around the world. We cannot and should not have to do it alone. We have powerful forces around the world. We should work with them to protect freedom around the world, not just the United States, not just our soldiers, not just our taxpayers. But we should also do everything that we can to solve international conflict without going to war. I am the former chairman of the Veterans Committee. I know what the cost of war was in Iraq and Afghanistan. It was terrible, and I want to see us be able to solve conflicts without having to go to war again. Okay. All right, let me thank all of you. Let me thank the tribal leadership for allowing me to be here this afternoon. It is an honor, and I look forward to working with you all in the weeks and months to come. Thank you.
Looks like we've lost our audio from the Bernie Sanders event. Speaking in Iowa today, he's been spending a lot of time in that neck of the woods along with the other candidates. Record crowds showing up, though, to meet and greet and see Bernie Sanders speak. All over the country, we had a huge turnout here in Phoenix, Arizona. He received some criticism from Donald Trump, who is probably one of the most well-known candidates in this upcoming election. But Donald Trump did critique him for being unable to control the microphone in some of his events. The Black Lives Matter movement had been making it a point to show up at some of Bernie Sanders' events and kind of hijack the microphone and jump up on the stage. And not only has Donald Trump criticized that, but Hillary Clinton has made a huge effort to not allow that to happen. A similar event happened a few weeks ago, and she refused to let them take the microphone. She said, I respect you, what you're doing, but I'm not going to let you take the microphone at this time. So that was an interesting exchange to witness. But Donald Trump has been very critical of the fact that Bernie Sanders has respectfully allowed them to take the microphone. And in some cases, Bernie Sanders has said, I'm not going to continue with my speech if you're going to do that. So it's been a bit disruptive throughout this campaign. It has been a bit of a distraction. And it doesn't look like I have any additional political. Wow, that is. I'm looking at my list of options to play for you, and I'm like, oh man. Hopefully we get some more news in today. But I do have. I'm just going to play a bear in a backyard for you for 2 seconds while oh, that's not even a story. Oh my goodness. I walk in 15 minutes before I'm supposed to jump on, and I tell you this because I'm sitting here like, well, I'm really kind of at a loss for content. Here's what I do have for you. I found this, the deputy that was killed in Texas. His funeral was streamed nationally, so let's go to or we could play some of yesterday's stories. If you don't watch my nighttime show, you won't notice. If you do watch my nighttime show, thank you. Let's get an update on some presidential content for you so we can stay in this realm.
Still speaking Spanish and lashing out against Donald Trump after Trump called on the former Florida governor to speak English while in America.
There's one candidate in the Republican Party that is preying on people's angst and fears.
But a new national poll shows Bush dropping to third place. Neurosurgeon Ben Carson sits comfortably in second. Trump has widened his lead while making a promise to the Republican Party.
I will be totally pledging my allegiance to the Republican Party and the conservative principles for which it stands.
Trump signed the RNC pledge not to run as a third-party candidate if he loses and to support whoever the GOP nominates. The real estate mogul previously floated the idea he'd go rogue from the party. Other Republicans joined Trump today in agreeing to the pledge.
I think if you're running for the Republican nomination for president, you should be willing to be able to support the Republican nominee.
Democrat frontrunner Hillary Clinton, meanwhile, remains under scrutiny. Her former State Department aide, Cheryl Mills, testifying today behind closed doors before a congressional committee investigating Benghazi and Clinton's private emails at the time of the 2012 terror attack. Bernie Sanders continues to nip on Hillary Clinton's heels as a new poll of Iowa voters shows Sanders closing in on Clinton. In Washington, Joel Waldman, Fox News.
Today at 2 p.m., the outsider turned frontrunner Donald Trump is going to sit down with the Republican National Committee Chairman Reince Priebus. And their meeting comes as word leaks out about a new plan for the party to put pressure on the billionaire businessman. The Donald is dominating in the polls, but party bigwigs worry that his blunt message and his sizable crowd could still be used to stage a one-of-a-kind independent party run. That's why the Republican National Committee has been privately reaching out to other campaigns, asking them to sign a special pledge. If they don't win the GOP nomination, they won't run as a third-party candidate, something that so far Trump has resisted.
Raise your hand now if you won't make that pledge tonight. Mr. Trump.
On the Democratic side, the candidate with the cloudiest intentions is still the Vice President Joe Biden. Will he or won't he? Democratic sources have told Fox in recent days that Biden will challenge Hillary Clinton if her national level of support dips below 40%. And the Real Clear Politics average of the newest polls shows she's got a ways to go till that happens. But as President Obama toured Alaska Wednesday, Biden visited the perennial swing state Florida, where, at a community college, he told students about his philosophy, and it could be a hint about an uphill climb to become the commander-in-chief.
And people who aren't willing to risk failing never succeed.
Remember, anytime the White House is asked about the prospect of a Biden run, they remind reporters about how critical he has been to the administration's efforts over the last 6+ years. But they refuse to offer an early endorsement. In Washington, Peter Ducey, Fox News.
Now, as we know, because we just saw the package previous to that, Donald Trump did sign the commitment saying that he would he was going to support whoever the Republican nominee was and was not going to run as an independent. And then last night, if you were watching our program, we had some Joe Biden on where he stressed that he simply does not know if he wants to be the president or not right now. His family's gone through some really hard times, and he's concerned that they wouldn't be able to fully commit to it. So we did hear Joe Biden last night address the fact that people are very curious as to if he's going to run as the Democratic nominee up against Hillary, up against Bernie. I mean, this is a great time to do it with all of the scandal Hillary's currently engrossed in. But he did address that and say his family has been through a very hard time recently, and he wants to make sure that they are all committed and capable of investing that much time in something like a presidential race. That's a lot of emotion and travel and probably physical and emotional exhaustion. I remember towards the end of the last one, Mitt Romney just looked like a shell of himself.
A big change could shake up the list of Republican candidates participating in CNN's upcoming presidential debate. The network will now use more recent polls to determine which candidates can take part in the primetime debate, and that could open the door to Carly Fiorina, previously shut out because she polled too low earlier this summer.
She can handle this. She throws punches. She's tough, and she has a strong command of the facts at her disposal. That being said, it's going to be pretty ugly up there, and she will have to bring her A game.
Things are heating up between the candidates who held the top two spots in last month's GOP debate on Fox. Donald Trump and Jeb Bush both attacking each other in campaign videos.
If you're attacked, you have to attack back, and Trump is going to go around and pick people off as he feels is necessary in order to garner attention.
On the Democratic side, the spotlight's back on Hillary Clinton after the State Department released thousands more of her private emails, but 125 of them are censored for information now deemed classified.
Information that was shared at the time might, years later, be considered to be sensitive. And again, looking at it through the prism that we're ultimately going to release it publicly, that does add an element to all of this.
New polls could also boost Dr. Ben Carson's standing in the Republican presidential race. They show him gaining ground on Donald Trump. He's now second among the 17 GOP candidates in Iowa. In Washington, Kristen Fisher, Fox News.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump maintains a comfortable lead in an average of recent national polls. But his advantage is somewhat narrowing, with GOP rival Dr. Ben Carson closing in. After a successful turn at the first primary debate last month, Carson has seen his profile and his fundraising go up, with some $6 million collected last month.
The Iowa voter, the South Carolina voter, and the New Hampshire voter, they're going to be the ones that really matter. And if you're not able to stay in the hunt through those first three, then it gets a little bit more challenging.
Former Texas Governor Rick Perry is among those hovering near the bottom of most national polls. In New Hampshire, Trump leads handily, but Ohio Governor John Kasich is also polling well. He's in second place in the latest surveys.
My message for America is count our blessings, build the stronger institutions, a stronger economy, don't leave anybody behind, and lift everyone.
Meanwhile, Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton continues to deal with the fallout from the release of thousands of her emails. Vice President Joe Biden talks education in the battleground state of Florida, as he's said to be contemplating a potential challenge to Clinton as well, but a deadline looms no more than the next month.
People who aren't willing to risk failing never succeed.
Back to Republicans. In New Hampshire, John Kasich's building momentum, and that's a serious threat to Jeb Bush, both of whom consider this to be their must-win states. And don't forget Chris Christie. He's also said if he doesn't do well here, it could be tough to do anywhere else. In Manchester, Carl Cameron, Fox News.
And staying a little in the political world, we had an exclusive interview yesterday with Jan Brewer in regards to some of those heinous ads that were on the internet featuring her face that she actually stumbled upon herself. This is not the raw interview. If you'd like to watch the raw interview, you can watch it on our YouTube channel. We did have we have posted the raw to the YouTube channel, but this is from our 6 p.m. broadcast last night.
Former Arizona Governor Jan Brewer prevails in getting online ads that depict her in a very negative light off the internet. She threatened legal action this week over these ads that used unflattering images of her to sell beauty products and procedures. And one of the ads even claimed her husband divorced her for being too old, which is not true. Also encouraged users to click to see her revenge makeover. Well, tonight, 2 online marketing companies say they're taking down those ads and will not use them in the future. And joining us now, former Arizona Governor Jan Brewer. It's good to see you again.
Nice to see you, Troy. It's great to be with you.
I wish we were seeing you under better circumstances, but you've been through a lot in the last few months.
I have.
So tell us about these internet ads. When was the first you heard about them or saw them? Tell me about that.
It was about 6 months ago. I noticed it on there because somebody had mentioned to me that it was up there. And of course, it's on all the pages that I read. And so I saw it one day, and so I looked at it. And of course, I was humiliated and also hurt. And thought, well, eventually it would go away. And then they kept coming up, and then I clicked, and they would go to a plastic surgeon or they'd go to products, and I thought, well, they'll give it up. But it just got out of control. I mean, absolutely out of control. And people were talking about it everywhere that I went.
Right.
They wanted to talk about my husband divorcing me, whom I've been married to almost 50 years.
Because one of the ads, explain that, because one of the ads said something about that, right? What did the ad say?
Right, they said that my husband divorced me because of my old age and my looks. And then I had a revenge makeover. And of course, those things are hurtful. They're just absolutely hurtful. And they didn't have permission to use my image. They lied, they were mean, and they were hateful. And it was all done for profit for them. And of course, it's coined, what is it, clicks.
Oh yeah, clickbait.
Yeah, clickbait.
Right.
And so obviously it was getting lots of hits because it stayed up there for so long. And it was on, 4 different pictures. And so it's not tolerable. And they were making a profit off of my image. And that's wrong. And it's illegal.
Can we talk about something that's more fun?
What?
Just in a very general sense. You say you're enjoying what's going on politically right now.
Yes, I am. I have been through a lot of presidential elections, and I think it's been the most exciting ever. And that we've got people on both sides of the aisle out there, and they're out there talking to the people, and there's a lot of scraping and scrapping going on. And I think that it's ignited America, the United States, and that more people are paying attention, and they definitely want straight shooters and straight talkers and truth tellers. And I love it. I love it. I just think it's exciting. I can't get enough of it. I thought maybe it would all fizzle out, but it hasn't.
Right.
It just continued to go. I can't wait to watch the presidential primary at the Reagan Library on the 16th of September.
It seems like it's almost the year of the anti-politician in a way, where you've got, at least on the GOP side, you've got 3 of the top people who have never held office before. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, it does surprise me, because you would think that the seasoned politicians, which I believe being a politician is an honorable profession, but I know from experience, people like truth tellers. They like straight talkers, because I think that's what people have told and saw me as a straight talker, a truth teller. And I think that we're seeing a lot of that, and now it's driving everybody else to be a little bit more straightforward and talking the language that people understand.
Governor Brewer, really nice seeing you again.
Nice seeing you.
And good luck with this issue going forward.
Thank you so much.
of Saudi Arabia, and I want
All right,
to make some brief remarks about the summit meeting today between the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abd and President Barack Obama at the White House. It was a very positive and very productive and very fruitful meeting. It lasted almost 3 hours. It was there was a short meeting, a small group meeting in the beginning between the two leaders. That was in the Oval Office. That was followed by a lunch with an expanded group of people. The two leaders were able to cover a very, very wide range of issues, of which is a tribute or a testament to the breadth and strength of the relationship between us and the various areas of cooperation that exist between our two countries. The two leaders expressed their commitment to further strengthen and deepen and broaden this strong and historic and strategic relationship. And the custodian of the two holy mosques expressed his appreciation to the President for his hospitality and for the very productive discussions that took place between the two leaders. The President acknowledged the Kingdom's leadership role in the Arab and Islamic world, and the two parties affirmed the need to maintain security, prosperity, and stability in the region. And in particular, they also agreed on ways to counter Iran's negative activities in the region. The President and the custodian of the two holy mosques talked about the nuclear agreement between Iran and the P5+1 countries. The President explained and affirmed that the agreement prevents Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon, has a robust and unprecedented inspections regime that includes inspections of all sites, including military and suspected sites, and that has a provision for snapback of the sanctions should Iran violate the terms of their agreement. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was satisfied with these assurances after having spent the last 2 months consulting with our allies in Europe and other places with regards to this agreement, and we believe that this agreement will contribute to security and stability in the region by preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear capability, and we hope that the Iranians will avail themselves of this opportunity in order to use the openness to the world and the additional income that they receive to fund domestic development rather than engage in nefarious activities in the region. The two leaders also discussed the military cooperation between the two countries and ways of enhancing it and streamlining it, and ways of fast-tracking the release of military technology and weapons system to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They also discussed areas of cooperation in terms of cybersecurity, ballistic missile defense, maritime security, counterterrorism, and other areas. The two leaders also discussed, of course, the importance of confronting terrorism and extremism and the financing of terrorism. The two countries have had, as you all know, a very strong and robust relationship when it comes to counterterrorism. Both countries are targets of terrorists, and both countries have expended tremendous resources in order to take on the terrorism and extremism. And the two leaders also agreed that in order to be effective in fighting terrorism and extremism, we must continue to broaden the international coalition against terrorism and make sure that we have more partner countries around the world that are part of this effort. Of course, the two leaders discussed regional issues. They discussed the situation in Yemen, the importance of arriving at a political solution based on United Nations Security Council Resolution 2216 and the GCC initiative, and the outcomes of the national dialogue in Yemen. They both expressed their concerns about the humanitarian situation in Yemen and the need to work expeditiously to try to alleviate the humanitarian situation in Yemen. The custodian of the two holy mosques reaffirmed the Kingdom's commitment to provide humanitarian assistance to Yemen, as we have been through the King Salman Center for Relief and Humanitarian Assistance, as well as through the direct assistance that we're providing on a daily basis through the ports and airports of Yemen. The custodian of the two holy mosques also expressed the kingdom's the steps that the kingdom would like to take in order to ensure that we can have more facilities through which aid can flow, in particular the ports along the Red Sea, and we would like to see the United Nations take supervision of these ports in order to open more avenues to be able to provide, to deliver vetted humanitarian assistance to Yemen. The two leaders, of course, discussed the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the need to and the importance of the Arab Peace Initiative of 2002 and the need to work towards a two-state solution in which we have two states living side by side in peace and security. And they also underscored the importance of the two sides taking steps to ensure that the two-state solution remains viable and remains possible. They also talked about Syria and the importance of finding a political solution to the conflict in Syria based on the Geneva principles of Geneva I, where we have a transitional council that would have executive power, and we have the removal or the stepping down of Bashar al-Assad, who has lost all legitimacy and has no role in the future of Syria. The discussions also focused on the fight against Daesh in both Iraq and Syria, and the importance of implementing the political reforms that were agreed to in Iraq last summer that would lead to an inclusive government in Iraq that represents all of Iraq's ethnic groups and all of Iraq's religious groups, and which we believe will contribute to national unity and will contribute to the effectiveness of Iraq's counterterrorism efforts and will contribute to the greater cohesion in Iraq and national unity in Iraq. The two sides also expressed support for Lebanon and the importance of the Lebanese factions going beyond their sectarian differences and electing a president in Yemen so that the country can move towards a situation where decisions can be made and where the current crisis situation or current standoff is overcome. The two leaders also discussed the world economic situation, both being members of the G20, both being very large trading partners, both having investments around the globe, and they also discussed the issue of global climate change and the importance of working together to secure a better and healthier future for all of us, with the understanding that each country, and in particular Saudi Arabia, has special circumstances that must be taken into account when looking at the environmental issues. The kingdom's officials were able to brief the president on the steps that the kingdom is taking with regards to alternative energies and with regards to countering global warming. And we also highlighted the cooperation between our two countries in the fields of energy and in the fields of environmental protection. There were also discussions with regards to the global health situation and global health security and the close cooperation between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, our health ministry, and the Department of Health and Human Services in the U.S., as well as with the Center for Disease Control in the U.S., and the fact that we have people on the ground working with us with regards to confronting or dealing with issues such as MERS. We believe that this is an area that both sides believe that this is an area that merits greater cooperation, not only between us, but between us and other countries, in order to ensure that we have a safer world, in particular with the increased ease of travel and the increased number of people on this very fragile planet. And then we had a discussion where the two leaders discussed the implementation of a new strategic partnership for the 21st century between the two countries, where we will take the relationship that is already very strong and very, very robust in all areas and elevate it to an entirely new level. The custodian of the two holy mosques directed His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the Deputy Crown Prince, to brief the President on our views with regards to this strategic partnership, and the President and the custodian of the two holy mosques directed officials in both governments to work expeditiously to look into setting up the modalities and the framework for such a partnership. We believe that this visit is a tremendously important visit. It is a landmark visit in terms of the bilateral relationship. In 1945, we had the first meeting between a Saudi monarch and an American president when the late King alAziz bin Abd met with the late President Franklin Roosevelt and set the stage for what became a strategic relationship between our two countries. During this visit, I believe the two leaders were able to take this relationship and set the stage for moving it forward over the next 70 years. And we look forward to working with our American partners and American friends in developing a relationship that would be much broader and much deeper, that will involve a much greater component of economic and financial investments in both countries, and that will involve cooperation in many, many areas between us for the benefit of both our people and our countries. And with that, I think I gave you a fairly comprehensive overview of the discussions, and I'd be happy to take a few questions if you would like me to.
Oh, and that's the wrong button count, number 573 for me today, just today alone. I'm going to go ahead and wrap there. This isn't typically when we end our morning show at 1:30, so we can gear up for our 2:30 afternoon show. So we're going to be back in just 1 hour, and then after that, when we close at 5, I will be back to give you our 6:30 to 9 program, and that's what I'm mostly looking forward to, spending 6:30 to 9 with you. I can't wait to see you then. Do you see where I burned myself? It's a burn. I forgot about it when I threw this dress on and ran out the door, but I have a burn. I will see you at I will see you again at 4:30, but come back for this 6:30 to 9 show, definitely. Oh, I think I have Sun stuff. I think I'm starting early because I have some cool, I think the Suns are gonna release their new jerseys. So I'm gonna be starting about 15 minutes early. That's exciting. All right, well, I'll see you then. Thank you so much for watching Fox 10 News Now.